T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world. All on the Tree Tuesday, the last All on the Tree Tuesday of 2024. We got the one and only Gary Schiavino of GS Reptiles. Who would have thought we were going to get Gary on before the end of the year, fellas? What's good?
What's up? I think it's safe to say this is going to be an extra cool episode.
I mean, what a way to end things, though, huh? Because we had quite the year. I mean, I want to say kudos to both of you guys for bringing such amazing guests. But overall, I mean, quite the year, right? You would say?
I think it was epic. I mean, I don't know how we're going to follow up 2025.
I mean, I don't know how we're going to follow up Gary Schiavino episode. This is going to be fucking
right.
This is going to be crazy. It's been 2 years since he's been here, but like now that things changed, this is a network. I have you two guys every Tuesday with me. This is going to be special. So, but listen, what's going on, fellas? Marshall Mendez, Bill Stiegel. What's shaking with you guys? Let's get to Bill first. Bill, what's new? Obviously, you had an ovulation. No, you had a clutch last time we talked.
Yeah, had a nice clutch from probably the most melanistic sickness sibling to date. It's the first clutch he's produced, and so we're about a week into that. And
surprise clutch too.
Yeah, kind of a surprise. I mean, it wasn't a surprise when she laid, but 2 weeks before she laid, it was a surprise. I kind of knew. One of those things where I think I said maybe last time, missed the ovulation. She had no post-ovulation or pre-ovulation shed. And just started cruising her cage, and she looked gravid. So I put an S box in, and the next morning she laid. So
eggs look good.
Yeah, the eggs look great. Knock on wood and all that kind of stuff. Chondro mojo, but yeah, so far so good.
And before we get to Marshall, anything looking like it's because I know it's still early for you right now. So I'm assuming you're just getting a bunch of locks right now, right, Bill?
Yeah, getting a lot of locks. But last night, Alex and I had a friend of mine over, a guy named Ken McAlexander, who's a big ball python guy.
Nice.
And very good with the ultrasound.
Oh,
and
cool.
We ultrasounded 10 females that had locked. And let's just say things are looking very good early.
Damn, ultrasounding it?
Yeah.
Game changing.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a girl. I'm not real familiar with like follicle size and ovulation and all that, but I've got a girl that I know she's on the precipice of ovulating, and she had 22 millimeter follicles, which doesn't sound real big in ball python terms, but they're big. And so I think that's like 20, 25, 26 millimeters. That's probably pretty close to ovulation. So she's close, and had a handful of girls that were 15, 17 millimeters already. So
do you have any that had been breeding that were smaller than you were hoping for or thinking?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a girl that had really minimal, tiny pea-sized follicles. She'd locked up a couple of times. Another girl that has locked up once or twice, and she's got 17 millimeter follicles. So,
Right.
Just so hard to tell with these things. None of them are off feed yet, but I just started feeding last week, so I'm expecting maybe a couple of more meals and then things to really progress.
Cool. We'll get more into it. I think one of the things I want to do going in 2025, like obviously this year, all about Marshall, we've been asking about is albino update. I think before we start off every episode, we need to know what Bill Stiegel's drinking. What is the choice drink? So why don't you go and take a moment to do that real quick? I don't know if you have any shout outs or anything.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I did want to give a shout out real quick to a friend and a fan of the podcast. His name's Jeff Tacker. He came in from Florida last week to visit the collection, and he just so happened to bring a very sweet bottle of Oregon Pinot which I will be getting into. And knowing our guest tonight, I will probably get through the vast majority of this bottle before the night's over. So thank you, Jeff.
Before anyone judges me, I'm looking at this as like a Christmas holiday work party. So at a certain point, I'm definitely cracking one open tonight. I'm not drinking with Gary and all you fuckers.
Well, you guys may or may not have noticed, but for the last, I don't know, couple of months, I've been drinking waters during the show.
I noticed it, but I don't want to make a big thing out of it. I know you wanted to
But tonight, for Gary.
The Miller Lite is
back on the horse. He's back on it. All right, listen. What's up with you, Marshall? Good to have you here again. On a Tuesday night. But what's shaking? First and foremost, get to the albino. How's it doing? It's just shed?
It's shed out. Yeah, it did not shit. Unfortunately, it just passed a pretty big chunk of urates. So I don't know if that's. Yeah, I mean that's good.
Yeah, real good.
Yeah, still waiting. I mean, it's due to shit any day now. So waiting for that. That'll be big.
No purchase still.
What's that?
No purchase still. You got
no purchase. Yeah, no purchase. Yeah, no purchase. Just like I said, just a little hide box, and it perches up on that because if the paper's wet, I don't want it sitting in the wet, so it can get up and get keep itself dry. And I just had that little hide box kind of stuck towards the back of the tub. And just shed. I'll take some pictures of it here the next couple of days. It's a little bit more, not quite as drastic of a change as the last shed, but it is, starting to get that kind of greenish yellow color everywhere. So fingers crossed.
That's a plus. I mean, I feel like urates is a hard thing to get out for most snakes, and if it could get that out with no prolapse, I'm pretty sure if it does have a brown shit, it's going to be able to come out pretty smoothly, you would think.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
What about the
what's that?
Yeah, what about your adult females that are in the
this weekend I set both of them up in their like laying tubs in the ball python rack. I've got them in a, I think it's a ARS 50 size tub, 40 size. Yeah. Nice. No, 50. ARS 50. Anyway, heat tape set to 84. They've both kind of hollowed out a little spot, pushed out all the COCO, which only had a thin layer in there so they could get right on the heat. And they're both beehive, man, looking great. They were a lot bigger. It's hard to tell sometimes when they're in the cage exactly how big they are. And when I pulled them out to set them up, both of them looked really, really swelled up and fat towards the tail. So yeah, we'll see. Fingers crossed that it goes well. They're both looking really good though. Hormonal blue on both of them, one way more than the other, but their colors shifted a lot since in the last month or so.
Could be a great Christmas.
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah, we'll see.
Looking forward to it. Hey guys, Gary Schiavino though, how do you guys feel about tonight's episode before we get Gary involved into this mix? I mean, what's your overall thoughts of Gary Schiavino, his involvement in the reptile hobby? Let's just hear it from both of you guys.
Well, let's just say
go ahead, you go first.
Well, let's just say we've all known Gary for a really long time, probably Marshall and I longer than you, MJ.
Yeah, for sure.
Marshall longer than me. But Gary was one of the guys that when I first got involved in Chondros, he was very active on, what was the old MVF. He was one of the big boys there. And I always had a respect from afar from Gary until we actually got to meet in person at one of the Tinleys. And then we hit it off and we've really been the best of friends for a long time.
Epic. Go on, Marshall.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he's a very close friend. I remember when we met at White Plains show. I believe it was fall of 98 maybe, or 99. It was right before right before I had my first clutch. That would have been 99, 2000. Just remember the day that I met him, I bought my first incubator at the show that day. And yeah, man, have become friends. Been hanging out, been friends with him ever since. And he's really the only broker that I would ever recommend somebody buy a snake from that they don't buy it from the breeder. Yeah, definitely. He's you can tell that he's not, you don't get to his level by just, doing this for as a business. I mean, obviously he does it as a business, but he also has the passion too, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, he just loves the animals, man. We were talking about it in check, and he is just like you, Marshall, like somebody who since day one has just been a huge fucking nerd over these reptiles. And he has been lucky enough to be around some of the best names ever to be around the reptile game, just like you. Obviously you and Gary have a lot in common, Marshall.
Yeah.
But I will say this, man, like Gary took something that a lot of people were doing in the hobby, but they abused the shit out of it. They didn't take care or establish the animals they were taking in. They would just flip it, right? That's one thing that Gary doesn't want. You kind of take jab. Well, we could call him a flipper, but you can't call him a flipper. He won't accept that if you're calling one. But what I'm saying is, these guys normally, for the most part, fucking damaged a lot of people's collections by the way they just got things in and fucking put it in someone's hands, took the money, and went to the next victim. Gary takes this shit very serious, and I feel like before anything leaves his collection, the establishment of the animal, like there's a certain criteria that this animal needs to be hitting. And I feel like because Gary takes that so serious, he has the name that he has, being a broker. And that's not an easy name to call yourself in a game like what we're doing, but he's never,
especially for as long as he's been in it, I mean, name another broker that's been doing it for 30 years that has no one's got beef with, Yeah.
Also, name another broker who supports US ARC like Gary, first and foremost. So shout out to anyone out there who supports US ARC or US ARC Florida. If you don't know what US ARC is, don't worry. I put the link in the description below. So click on that third link, usarc.org. Become a member today as low as $5. Thank you to anyone out there who supports US ARC. Shout out to Phil Goss. Shout out to the entire US ARC affiliates and associates. Thank you so much. And again, that's usarc.org. Become a member today. Very blessed for today's sponsor, Reptile Super Show, happening January 11th and 12th at the Pomona Convention Center. It's going to be quite the time. The best people in the reptile hobby showing up, even vending. And the reptilesupershow.com is where you can get your tickets, book your hotels, and you can catch me and many other my associates at the Reptile Super Show. I'll be vending, and it's going to be quite the time. So again, that's Reptile Super Show, Pomona, January 11th and 12th. Tonight's episode is also brought to you by David Brahms over at the Reptile Perch, #1 PVC design purchase in the game. Go to reptileperch.com, see what he has best that could fit your arboreal needs. And I got to tell you right now, man, he has amazing chondro productions that he has produced this year. So another good reason to follow David Brahms at the Reptile Perch on Instagram. So make sure you go check him out. Also, tonight's episode is brought to you by Blake Exotic Feeders, #1 quail in the game, homegrown quail straight to your doorstep anywhere in the United States. My man Blake is doing it the best. He's provided me and many other trappers and other awesome reptile keepers throughout the year, and he's starting off strong, and it's going to be going strong going into next year. So check him out right now. Go place your order. Blake Exotic Feeders on Instagram. Okay, let him know that the trap sent you, and he'll take care of you. That's my boy. Thank you so much, Blake, for doing everything you're doing. And last but not least, shout out to tonight's guest, Gary Schiavino, GS Reptiles, the #1 broker in the game. But I got to say, when it comes to YouTube content, nothing makes my Friday. Well, I don't know. I'm going to talk to him about it because he's not consistent. Okay, here's the thing. I love Gary's content, and that's the beauty about YouTube is whatever he's put out is still there. There's hours and hours and hours of content for you to go geek out over if you haven't already. And even if you have, I've watched so many Gary videos on repeat when it comes to, the easy part of keeping chondros and many other cool stuff, rare cool stuff that a lot of people don't usually get to see coming into the reptile game. So don't waste time, okay? We'll wait to this episode. And after this episode, go geek out and go binge over all the GS Reptile videos on YouTube, okay? And make sure you go give him a follow on Instagram as well. Bill, Marshall, are you ready or what? Should we fucking do this? I'm pumped.
Let's get it on.
You ready? All right, guys. The last All in the Tree Tuesday of 2024 coming at you, and we are not playing. We are ending this year with a bang. A Swifty bang. Episode 580, Gary Schiavino, GS Reptiles. Let's go. Choo.
Good.
You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes,
Exclusive. Oh,
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crowd, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up.
and we're here, boys. Gary Schiavino, episode 580. He's back. What's up, buddy?
Hey guys,
Good evening, sir.
MJ. Thank you for having me. First off, and Bill and Marshall, I love being with you guys. I love you guys, and I'm really nervous. Bill's right. I really do get nervous doing things, but I know you guys are. I'm in good hands. So
Been writing questions all day.
Oh my God, I'm sure you have, Marshall. I just thought the funniest thing I heard so far is I thought it was adorable that Bill said that the reason he's going to finish off a bottle of wine tonight is because of me. And I'm thinking, Bill, you're polishing off a bottle of wine because it's Tuesday night.
That's happening no matter what.
Yes, right. I don't need to be here.
Well,
But you
normally
guys-
it'd be half a bottle, but I think tonight it may be the whole thing.
You go for it.
Hey,
But hey, no, I love
who's
being
me-
here. Thanks you for having me.
Who's measuring anyways, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, Gary, what an honor, dude. And I will say, you know, what makes everything kind of come together full force, you know, obviously we're part of a group chat here. I look up to all three of you very much, but I get to have fucking Bill and Marshall here every Tuesday. And I can't tell you how many times I wish you were a part of a lot of the conversations we had, but you always give us your 2 cents after the show. And
Yeah,
I will
watch
say,
them all, man. I watch every trap. I really do, and I love them. And you know, what's weird is when I'm watching the intro, and I'm usually just relaxing, sitting, gonna watch the guests, and I'm like, holy crap! Like once that stops, here I am. So, but thanks for all the kind words too in the beginning, guys. I really appreciate everything. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Well deserved.
Yeah. Do I look too washed out to you guys? I know I'm really pale to begin with, but let me lower my light a little bit.
I saw you.
dude, he adjusted.
I
He
saw
adjusted
you out
the
getting
light.
getting sun today.
He adjusted the light like 4 times in sound check. I don't know why. I don't know what he's doing.
Okay. All right. I think that's better.
I was expecting to see Mouse Man, you know, when he came on. So
I was too busy today, Bill. I'm sorry.
I saw
No
that.
doubts, man. I was way too busy today.
The promo he did was fucking enough.
the-
Trust me.
The drone Ranger. That I'll probably watch it like at least 10 times.
Well, I love it. Thank you. What's funny, actually, there's drone outside my house right now. So they're there every night. Yeah,
Hey, listen, 2 big things I want to talk to you about tonight because I feel like it was your biggest growth moments. You know, obviously the YouTube, man, I gotta say your content is like no other, first and foremost, mainly because I feel like your experience with what you're talking about is what you have on your belt, but then the love and the excitement you have for the animal.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we were kind of explaining like what you do on the broker side of the reptiles. Like you legit fucking love these reptiles, huh, Gary? Like you take this pretty.
Anybody who's been doing this as long as most of us have, like, you know, I never thought I'd make any money in reptiles. I never got into reptiles to make, if I didn't make money doing reptiles, I would just have as many reptiles as I have, believe me. But yeah, I love to talk about the brokering thing because, you know, as our friend Ryan loves to call me a flipper in a loving way, but yeah, I can go into some of the background on how that all started. But, you know, the reason I started brokering and buying and selling collections is simply because I didn't have money to buy animals. And a lot of times just came down to, hey, if I buy the group and I sell them off, it's basically paid for my animals, really why I started brokering. But if you have questions, I could just jump in, MJ. I don't take over, but I can get into it.
My biggest question is the inspiration behind you being so good at like, okay, all I know when it comes to buying an animal from a flipper, not really a broker, but meaning someone who doesn't really establish, is you have the chance of getting something that's on death's door is pretty common. And how many times did you go through that in just overall in your experience? Like, were you very smart on avoiding people who were flippers, or did you yourself have your take of getting screwed over and getting really fucked up animals and all that stuff as well?
You know what, man? I'm being honest with you. I've had such few negative interactions as far as, negative events with bad animals coming in. I really have. Anytime I had an animal come in that needed some TLC, which just happened, it does happen. People will typically give me a heads up and say, hey, I'm going to send you this animal because I think you can get it going. If not, don't pay me, things like that. But that really honed my skills. When you're getting in a group of baby Amazon basins, and none of them are feeding, man, you talk about, you're going to learn real fast how to get those animals established and how to get them going. And I'll never claim to be the best breeder. I think I'm a pretty decent breeder, but when it comes to getting babies feeding, especially arboreals babies, I just think I just really, I like to think I really mastered that over the last decade, really.
A lot of experience.
Yeah.
Just kind of thrown into it.
And I feel like what Gary says, when you have these animals in front of you, it's fucking game time. Like your brain gets to thinking right
absolutely.
away.
Yeah, and you don't have there's not a lot of a learning curve when it comes to like a baby chondro comes in. If it's not feeding, you don't have months for it to turn around, right? You have literally a few weeks before it starts to really crash and burn on you. Right. And Amazon emeralds are a little easier. I'm going to tell you the basin guys versus the emerald guys. I will tell you it's far easier to establish whether it's a basin or a northern, simply because of the size of the animal. When you look at a baby chondro compared to a newly born baby, even a northern emerald, my God, it's like night and day. The size difference is unbelievable. So
why don't we take it from go ahead, Bill?
Well, I was going to say, Gary, you're known, probably most of this audience, working with arboreal stuff. But the first time I was not introduced to you, but became familiar with you, you were bringing carpet pythons in from Germany.
Yes. Yeah. That was in 2009, Bill.
Okay.
That's what really, so I always, a long story short is I'm on the East Coast. I've had really fortunate experience of being around some people who were just really advanced in the hobby. Even 30, 40 years ago, they had some amazing relationships and connections, which they brought me in on. And, the very first time I actually had animals, I purchased animals that were flown in as opposed to buying them in person, was back in probably the late 80s. And I dealt with a guy named Ernie Wagner, who was out in Seattle. If you've been around a long time, you may have heard Ernie's name. That was the first time I ever purchased animals that I was going to resell, because by the time I paid for shipping and bought my animals, I wound up buying a lot of other animals from him just to pay for my shipment. And once I got that confidence level that, wow, okay, I can have animals shipped to me, that really kicked things off for me. And back in the MVF days, if you were on the MVF back in the early 2000s, there's a pretty good chance that you had an animal from me, a chondro from me. Not necessarily that I produced, but an animal that I acquired from somebody. Because there's a lot of people out there who they produce some amazing animals that just, they don't have the time to either sell them, or maybe people don't know them, so they're gonna have a difficult time selling them. They're just too busy. And they've just reached out to me and they said, hey, I know you do this. And that's how it kind of really started for me. And then what really brought me to the next level of really spending quite a bit of money, substantial money, on getting some really great animals from great people was because I had a pretty good reputation on MVF. There's a gentleman by the name of Don Patterson. Don is in Canada. You guys may have heard of Don. Don is like a master breeder. He's a really low-key guy, but Don is doing some cutting edge stuff. He's he knew his shit 30 years ago. He was just ahead of the game. And because of Don, he reached out to me. He was bringing in animals, really high end animals. When I say high end, guys got to remember, this is 2009. And he was bringing in albino Darwin carpets and het albino Darwin carpets from these gentlemen who were in Germany. Yep. And they needed somebody to represent their animals in the United States. And Don, who barely knew me, but just knew I had a good reputation in the States with buying and selling animals, he introduced me to those guys in Germany. And that really started bringing me to the next level. And that's when I incorporated GS Reptiles back in 2009. Because if you think, I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to get tax evasion. So my wife and I were so nervous because I was selling back then in 2009. I was selling Het Darwin albino carpets for $17,500 a pair back in 2009. And because of that, I had to go really legit and go as far as, incorporate GS Reptiles. And that's really what started off for me.
You didn't want to have to rely on one of those Biden pardons. To get
I did not, but it turns out I would have gotten one.
Absolutely.
So,
Gary, my question for you. Let's take it from here.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm curious because you did say emeralds are, from what your knowledge is, a lot easier to get going than chondros.
I shouldn't say easier to get going. I'm just saying your time frame is greatly extended. Right.
Okay.
I don't panic if a baby basin or a baby northern does not eat for me. I'm fine with it. It can go, I'll let it go 6 to 8 weeks. I'm not going to do that with a baby chondro.
So my question for you, and this is going to help anyone out there who's currently in this position, but you get an animal in, it was eating at one point, and then it's just not eating for you at all, right?
Well, that's different. No, that's different. The animals I'm getting in they were never feeding, MJ. They're brand new babies.
Okay, so
yeah.
why don't we talk about what you do to just get them to eat when they haven't eaten at all? Like what's your first approach to something like that?
Washed, frozen thawed fuzzy mice.
Tell me more about washing them and why you wash them. What are you washing with? Like what are you using to wash?
Yeah, it's called 7th generation hand soap, and it's odorless and it's colorless and it's chemical free. 7th generation hand soap. I talked about this in some of my videos, and what you basically do, and by the way, Don Patterson taught me this trick, okay, in Canada. Basically, you're washing the scent of the rodent, produced in a laboratory, right? You're washing the pine scent and everything off the rodent, and it's just and I'm going to heat up that fuzzy mouse, and I'm going to heat it up really well. Baby emeralds, man, the key is the heat. You don't have to get animals as hot with chondros. You just don't. Because in the wild, they'll take lizards and frogs. With emeralds, man, for whatever reason, you got to really heat the hell out of the animals. You don't want it hot, right? You just want it much warmer than room temperature, but you don't want it actually hot, especially if a mouse is a fuzzy mouse. His stomach will explode if you get it too hot. But yeah, that's my first line of defense. It's unscented, frozen thawed fuzzy mice. They don't eat that. I go to unscented, frozen thawed pinky mice. If they don't eat that, then I'll try live fuzzy mice. Live is, I just never want to go that route, but at some point I just want to get the animal, get some food in their stomach. But as you alluded to earlier, the animals I'm getting in, these babies, like I have chondros now. I probably have right now, I'd say 50, 60 chondros right now. Most of them are babies, but I'm just establishing everything. I mean, I'm going to sit on this stuff for months. It really is. Some of them do take, as you guys know better than anybody. You guys produce so much stuff. But yeah, it's just about getting them really established because I just never want to get the call that we all dread of, my God, I just got your animal and I can't get it feeding. So it's my own selfish reasonings, right? Why I get this stuff so strong to feed.
How are you doing focusing on everything that you're getting into established, but then like your own breeding stuff? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like you have a lot of stuff you're juggling right now. And I'm curious if sometimes you feel like the establishing gets you, like you're focused off the breeding sometimes because you're so like, you got so many babies already.
1000% that's accurate. That's what does happen. And that's why I parted off with some groups last year. I love brokering, man. Nothing is more fun to me. I love getting first off, I take a lot of pride in breeding. I love breeding too, right? But the brokering, just anything I broker typically is always an animal I'm interested in, right? That's the key thing. I'm always getting baby Bowen's pythons, baby Amazon basin emeralds, baby diamond python, stuff that I'm always interested in myself. But to answer your question, what's really happened over the past 2 years is, I have a staffing company. And little by little, really what I've been doing is if there's time to be taking away from something, it's really with that. And I love that company. I've done it for over 20 years. I have a partner, which I love dearly. I have clients, which I genuinely love. Any client I'm working with at this point in my career is because I want to work with them. Yeah. But really what's happening is I'm putting more and more time on the reptile side because I'm doing brokering at this point, man. You guys know how much time does it take to establish a baby chondro as opposed to feeding baby chondros, right? I mean, that non-feeding baby might take you the same time as it takes you to feed and clean 20 baby chondros, right? That are feeding. So yeah, it's a major time suck. So yeah, it's basically turning into a full-time job at this point, MJ. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
I mean, can we all agree that there's all these different fucked up personalities with these baby chondros, and they all eat differently sometimes? I mean, man, you got some that just come out that are made to eat, right? And you see that, and then you just have some that are just like, holy shit, what's happened? But then what's crazy is like, if you're patient enough, they do turn around, you know. And I feel like it's just not stressing about it. But I want to ask you though, Gary, like, when do you look at a snake and think, okay, I should get some food into this fucking snake now? I feel like people should know that how to ride that fine line, you know?
Yeah, I don't wait anymore. Baby chondros, guys, I don't wait anymore. And it's really difficult at times to feed them whole baby pinkies. I know you guys do it. So what I did is, and trust me, I am not saying this is fact. I'm saying this, you know, I feel like with baby chondros, it's almost like if you ever played golf, you hit the ball great one time, you're like, I got it. I know, I just figured it out. I know how I'm gonna hit the ball perfect every single time. And then you go to the next hole. It's like you can't do that same thing again. So everyone is different. But here's something I've been doing. If I have a baby chondro that's not feeding for me, I used to feed it like a pinky head, which is a slow way to kill it, right? If you feed a pinky head every 5 to 6 days, eventually that little baby chondro will die off if you don't start feeding it the entire organism, an entire pinky mouse.
I agree.
I will feed it a pinky mouse now every other day. Every other day I'll feed it a pinky mice because every other day I'll feed it a pinky head. With my primary goal is to get that baby to its first shed. That's all I'm doing. Or in this case, typically its second shed. Typically it's already had one shed. I'm just trying to get it to its second shed because I think we know when a baby chondro goes through a second shed, once you go, if it's assuming it's not feeding, if you go to feed it after its second shed, I'd say it's a better than 50% chance it might actually take a food item for you that time. Not every time, but I would say it's better than half the chance. So my goal is I'm doing a pinky head every other day, which sounds excessive, but it barely puts a bulge in it. And the other thing is I'm not really stressing them out too much because a pinky head, I'm not even taking the animal off the perch. I'm taking the entire shoebox out, putting it on my rack, and just lifting the pinky's head, stick the chondro's head, sticking the pinky's head in there, and putting it right back. And it's not getting. I put it down deep enough where it's, you know, it's not going to get it out, and it's just as simple as that.
It's so not that simple, though, Gary. Are you using a toothpick? What are you using?
No, I use tweezers. I use a back of tweezers, the flat tweezers. That's what I use, just to get it down to its esophagus where it's down deep enough. And typically by the second or third pinky head, man, it's not putting up a fight. You know, look, there's exceptions to every rule, but I'm just telling you that's what's been happening.
Have you ever tried geckos? I'm just kidding.
No, I haven't. I haven't tried. I feel like geckos are cheating. You know, it's so weird.
For sure it's cheating. I love it. I don't give a fuck. Give me cheat codes all day. I'll take it.
It's so silly because what we do with these animals is so unnatural, but I feel like geckos are cheating. And Bill, the thing I have to talk to you about offline with is that you mentioned, before I came on, is about the ultrasound with the chondros. And that's got to be the coolest thing in the world, man. I mean, because I think about that all the time with all the animals I have here. It's like, if I knew exactly when they were producing follicles or just the start of it, how much easier everything would be. I know, again, I keep alluding to Ryan. I know he's out there listening to us and he's rolling over right now but at this point, what does it matter if we cheat, right? And we do any means possible to get these animals thriving.
I mean, let's be real though. How's giving it its most natural food prey item cheating though? Like,
it's not. It's not, MJ. I'm just old, and I just like doing it the hard way, the old-fashioned way. The reasoning I don't try that, the geckos is, I'm just always, my concern is, or quail, is the concern always is it might be more difficult some to switch them off those prey items, right? It might be easier to get them to take a mouse than to switch them over to a mouse after you start them on.
We all know once these things start going, they're like machines, okay? And I could tell you right now, that's
the argument to that is that. I mean, have you ever had one not switch off something? I mean, like chick-scented pinks, they always switch off, right?
You're absolutely right.
They become something where like they'll eat back to back if you keep offering. Like they're like, we all know from neo to subadult to adults, if you give it a meal, they act like they want another one, and they act like and that's why I feel when they're at that stage, you give whatever the fuck they can handle. I
agree with you. Once the feeding response is kicked in, they'll eat. I guess I have that just left over from the carpet python world, because carpets can be pains in the ass. You get carpets on mice sometimes. It can be real difficult to get them over to mice. And I think I'm just making that correlation.
Over to rats,
Over to rats, absolutely. Yeah.
It's crazy. I felt like carpets were such a huge foundation for you when I first met you. Maybe they were, but they're really not as much anymore, are they?
Who, me? Chondros for me?
No. Carpets.
Oh, carpets. back in the day, man, chondros were very difficult to come by. You know, when I was a kid starting out, they were very expensive. And, you know, the next best Morelia were carpet pythons. I could buy a carpet python, you know, 30 years ago for $150. I couldn't do that with a green tree python. The first green tree pythons I bought, they were actually, they were produced by Tracy Barker. I paid $700. I bought them from Pete Kyle, and I paid $750 a piece for them. And that was in 1994. That was a big deal, man. Don't think I wasn't stressed out of my mind driving to Maryland to pick them up. I was really nervous. So, you know, carpets were just more readily available, less expensive. And I don't know about you guys. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. So carpets were just a great gateway drug, you know.
That's exactly how I progressed.
Yeah.
Big carpet. But once I got the green trees, it was like everything else kind of became second fiddle.
But carpets are awesome.
Yeah,
they are.
I love carpet pythons. I absolutely do. You know, I just love them, the colors, and I really do. I love all this stuff. You know, that's the reality of it. I love it all. I was going to mention to you guys about
Taylor Swift's in town.
Taylor Swift. The Eras Tour ended. I just wrote some quick notes just to bring up some stuff. Yeah. But the Eras Tour ended last week. It's been very rough in my household. No, I just wanted to mention one other thing about, you know, the whole brokering thing. If I could just go back to that for a second, it's because, you know, I always thought, like, you guys have all purchased cars, right? You go to a car dealership.
Yep.
And I always said to myself, imagine like if a car dealer, like you walked in and the guy just wasn't an asshole. Like imagine if a car dealer, a salesman, wasn't an asshole. Like I always thought like, wow, that guy would make so much money if he was just a normal rate and wasn't like a bullshitting you and like switching cars when you got there. And I've always that's what I've always kind of approached this with, you know what I mean? I'm like, man, imagine like, and I'm not slamming the way the reptile market is today, but back when I came up, you know, people tend to romanticize it and they talk about, oh, it was so great back then 20, 30 years ago. It was so different. You know, I had a different experience. You know, I haven't necessarily been burned, but I didn't think a lot of those people back then, especially now looking back, I don't think they really operated with integrity. And I think a lot of these guys who I knew back then, they didn't operate in a scrupulous manner. And a lot of them have reinvented themselves now because of social media, right?
Yeah. There was a lot less accountability.
Oh, 1,000%.
Right? Yeah.
And
without the internet.
I think it's so much better now. You know, I do. I think it's so much better now. So when people talk about it, trust me, it's so much better now. And the way the way the animals are kept and everything, and it's very encouraging. But yeah, really, that's what I did, man. I just looked and I just said, Matt, imagine if I wasn't an asshole and I just operated with honesty and integrity. Like you could really do well. And that's pretty much that's it, man. That's my secret to doing this is just being upfront with people, you know.
Well, because just like we were saying, the internet will show the truth at some point. And that's where, like, even people who don't get the whole social media side of being exposed by fucking people over, they still play that game and they still fucking fuck people over. But I gotta tell you, it's really hard to like get erased from this reptile hobby. Like obviously you could get away with a lot and still somehow be a figure in here, and it's fucking crazy to me.
Yeah,
you know?
Those people will leave eventually.
I don't know, man. You got some people. You got some people literally falling apart, and they're still sticking around. And it's like, what the fuck?
But MJ, you know what? Every person you could bring up to me today in the hobby, I've seen that person before in a different life form 20 years ago, different name, maybe was keeping different animals. But I've seen variations of the same people, and I kind of know how I know the end game, and people will quietly leave. Trust me, they will. One day they'll just be like, wow, did they unfriend me on Facebook? I haven't seen them. And they'll just kind of fade off into the sunset because, man, I think we all know you're not going to become wealthy doing what we do. You got to have a lot of passion for the animals. And once a lot of people realize the money is just not what they think it's going to be, they're going to fade off into the sunset.
I'm sure you could speak. Oh, go ahead, Marco.
I was going to say, can you talk a little bit about back to the brokering? Like I know the YouTube channel has for sure broadened your ability. You know, not that you ever had trouble selling them before, but obviously now you've got a much bigger audience. You've got the seller base. Has it helped you on the buying side too? Has it led to other contacts?
Yes.
How has that helped?
That's what's happened, Marshall. Yeah, I get people reaching out to me all the time now with animals that are available. And I'm super picky, man. As you can imagine, how picky are you guys just buying one animal from somebody, right, and doing your due diligence? So when you're buying a group of babies, I'm really fussy. But what I've realized is there's so many people out there who just don't want to. They don't want to be bothered with. They don't want to go on social media. They don't want to take the time.
They don't want to deal with people.
No, they don't. And you know, it sounds so ridiculous because trust me, I'm put through my paces. I'm super nice to everybody, but some people really do put me through my paces. But yeah, like I just had a gentleman, you guys would find this interesting. He reached out to me. He's in Florida. Really nice guy, man. Sent me pictures of his stuff. Big locality collection. He's sitting on about 40 baby chondros right now. Some amazing Maniquari stuff. I'm probably going to fly down to him in January and go check out his stuff and hopefully take a bunch of stuff back with me. But like, I never heard of this guy before. You know, this guy's out here crushing it. He's been doing it forever. And he's just like, I don't want to be bothered on, like, I don't know MORPH market. I don't want to go on MORPH market. I don't want to deal with that, you know? You know, you guys know, like I get some amazing animals from Kristen and Eric over at Fascination Herp. And by the way, I love giving credit to people who I'm buying my animals from. And when they give me permission, you'll always see in my videos, I'll always say, hey, this person produced this and this is their animals. I love it. But the reality is most people, like the people who I get the baby Bolin's pythons from, you know, amazing people, awesome, super strong partnership, you know. And but they don't want to be, they don't want their name out there. So everybody's different. But yeah, like Kristen and Eric, man. I mean, Kristen, I don't know how old Kristen is. She's pretty young. And she does mostly hot stuff at Fascination Herp. But when I tell you, like, I think I'm really good at getting babies going, man, especially problem babies. And I think I know she's right up there with me because she's always dealing with baby arboreal vipers. So those are even smaller than chondros.
Yeah.
But she just crushes it with these baby chondros. She produces so many of them. She'll sit in her living room watching TV and get them going, multitasking, getting these babies going, and shipping them off to me. And Kristen's one. I love her to death, but she's a perfect example of, if you called Kristen and said, hey, can you send me pictures of the adults on these? How many times does baby feed? She'd be like, you know, as sweet as she is, she's just not going to deal with it, man. She's not going to deal with it. She just won't.
Because dealing with people fucking it's an art. It's not easy. It's and you know, you could go forever being the kindest individual, and then you come across this fucking motherfucker. You know what I mean? And then you're like, son of a bitch. And then you get these fat tire kickers, right, Bill?
Yeah. You know, tire kicker was just going on the back of my mind the whole time Gary's talking. Tire kicker, tire kicker.
Well, you know what's really cool, though, guys? I'm telling you, I'm really spoiled because I will tell you, I'm not going to throw percentages at you because I think when people throw percentages off the cuff, it's such bullshit and you're just making up numbers. I can only tell you that more than half the people who buy from me are always repeat customers. I have customers now. Yeah. I call them clients because I would say customers typically buy for price. If you're buying from me, you're not buying for price. I like to keep my prices as reasonable as I can. But the reality is you're buying because you've dealt with me before, you know what to expect, and I'm going to make it so painless for you. Like MJ, you got animals from me. Like if you buy an animal from me, I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk myself up, but it's the truth. Like I wish I could tell you it's just because I'm so detail oriented, but the reality is I have major OCD. I'm so neurotic. So if you buy from me, like you'll have an email from me before FedEx saying, okay, your animal just arrived at the hub. Okay, your animal's ready to get picked up. You know, a couple days later, did your animal eat yet? I mean, I'm like that with every single person who buys from me. It's just a neuroses, you know?
Well, Gary, I'll just say, you know, you're like that because you're not brokering ball pythons. You're brokering ball pythons,
it'd be different.
You have even less hair on your head than you have right now.
That's possible.
Trust me, brokering arboreals, and I'm trying to resell or broker ball pythons.
Yeah.
The definition of insanity, I'm sure.
It's a different clientele.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. And I always will say, listen, I love all these animals and I love ball pythons. I do. And I do breed ball pythons. I probably have a couple clutches this year. But I will tell you, like, I always just love watching, you know, the voices of the ball python market, especially on Trap, talking about the market, and nobody ever alludes to the fact that the market is like dead. They always find the positive, which is encouraging. I love that. Listen, it's beneficial for all of us for the ball python market to be good because we all know that ball python people, it's an entry animal, and they eventually go to, a lot of my clients are started out as ball python people.
Yeah.
But the only thing I was going to mention to you guys, I think it's funny, is that I really do know very little about the ball python market. I only know what I see, but I can only tell you this for a fact. I was looking for a candy piebald male ball python about 3 years ago. I was going to buy one because I have a female. And those animals I looked at 3 years ago, piebald candy males, are still on MORPH market. like from 3-4 years ago. The same
Same
ones,
animal.
same animals.
Same weight.
Probably. So anyway, I'm not slamming the ball python market. I love ball pythons, but I'm thinking, oh my God, like I didn't even realize like this is kind of crazy, you know. But hey, but I love the sellers stick to their guns because all the prices are the same. Nobody's coming down on the prices, you know.
I'm surprised. And listen, I'm not trying to be judgmental. I know, you know, it's a part of the ball python thing, but I don't know how this isn't shut down at this point of because you know, let's think about anyone doing this in the Chondro game, but like cutting a fucking goddamn ball python egg where it's still so fresh. Like I'm talking about, there's so much yolk and the veins are still fresh, and they're just digging these motherfuckers out, and I'm just like, fuck, like.
Yeah.
How is that? And I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm myself in the ball python. I don't do that. I can at least let their bodies halfway come out first before I'm looking at anything. Yeah. But I feel like there's a lot of things you could get away with because ball pythons don't die. They're not. I mean, you could do that.
They tolerate it.
They're totally fine. But you know, you do that with the chondro, and I mean, but then I feel like let's be real. Even if chondros wouldn't die, I don't think that would be a thing that we would do. I don't know. Maybe if I'm wrong. I mean. A lot more ball. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think of that? I think it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't watch the ball python the videos. I really don't.
I try not to.
What's that?
I try not to.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, I the only thing I can tell you about it, the only thing that concerns me about the ball python market, genuinely concerns me as an animal lover. It's like, man, if you're selling animals for, you know, $20 and $25 and whatever, how do you really care where they're going to? That's a whole different thing. I'm not trying to be on my pedestal, but it's just, that's, you know, I just never wanted to, I always hated that aspect of the business, you know. I just, you know. I do want to say this though, Gary, going back to, you were talking about, you know, with the broker side of things. I've had multiple conversations with people I'm close to who've gotten animals from you, and they told me, you know, their whole scenario where before they could even tell me what you did with it, like, I'm like, dude, why would you take in this animal like this? Like, meaning like you've sold animals to people that might have didn't fucking do the right thing. But regardless of the scenario, if that snake wasn't eating, you would take it back. Like, no matter whose fault it was, you always take the animal back and do right by it. And that's something, dude, a lot of people don't do that. Are you kidding me? I do that every time, man. Yeah, I literally just had somebody send me an animal that was being produced by me. A chondro that it ate for him a few times. He contacted the breeder, and the breeder basically just kind of brushed him off. And he was starting to force feed the animal, and I saw a picture of it, and I knew he was going to kill the animal if he was force feeding, because I knew it just came down to it just, as we all know, it just typically comes down to technique, right, guys? It usually has very little to do with the prey item. This was an established animal, and it ate for him a few times and stopped. But yeah, and I got it in, and you guys know the story, which is true. The animal came back to me. It ate the very first night, and it's still here with me. I'm gonna hold it until I can get it on hopper mice. But yeah, man, I love the people I've met in the hobby, but the reality is, man, I love the animals more, and I'm you know, I do, and I have an office set up too where I could house things separately when I get animals come in. I have 2 racks in my office. I have cages in my office, so I can keep things as a bit of a quarantine. But yeah, I don't know, man. I just, it's beneficial for me. I tell everybody who buys from me, man, I want you to have a great experience because I want you to buy more animals from me. You know, these animals are crazy. And it always comes down to the very first experience you have is going to dictate how you do in this hobby, right? If somebody has a bad experience, there's a pretty good chance they're going to leave the hobby. And we were all super fortunate to find our passion in life in this hobby. And hey, man, we could turn other people on to that. That's a pretty cool thing to do. MJ, just to touch back earlier too, you're talking about, yeah, when people about answering questions, you know, and ads and tire kickers and stuff, is that the one thing I always do with the ads too, if you go check out my ads, is, man, I put everything in that ad that I think somebody's going to ask, from the hatch date, what it's feeding on, from, you know, obviously if somebody else produced it, pictures of the parents, man. I put every single thing in there, and trust me, they'll still come back with pictures, questions. But overall, I'm so spoiled, guys, and I'm not just saying this, but man, most of the time, I will tell you, the majority of the time when people buy animals from me, it's never questions. It's like, hey, guy, I want to buy this animal. That's it, man. And it's just that fast. I want to buy this animal. And I'm talking, you know, Bolin's pythons for $17,500 a pair. Because what's really cool, I've worked myself up into a point now after 30, 40 years where a lot of times there are animals people will want, and they may have seen them available, but typically they don't know the person, or they're not, you know, familiar with the seller, but they're always looking for the animal. And they see, as soon as I have it, they're like, oh, Gary has it, and I'm going to take it. And that's exactly what happens. You know, I just got 18 baby diamond pythons in, right? And I showed them on my video. And after showing them on my video, I had 6 pair, 6.6. And then I had another 18 total. So I had 6 lone females, which I was going to hold back. And in the video, I only mentioned the 6.6. And genuinely, the video came out on a Friday afternoon. And by Friday night, I had sold all 6 pair already. You know, and people aren't asking me for pictures and stuff. They're just like, hey, Garrett, pick me out the nicest pair. And that's pretty much how it happens all the time. I very rarely have to.
I would agree with you, and I would concur 100%. My experience personally with chondros is the same.
I love it, Bill, and you've earned that, man. You know, you earned it.
I just think there's, you know, and again, I'm not going to go back, and we're not going to, you know, bash ball python breeders or buyers, because I'm both of those. But it's a different world. You know, when somebody contacts me about a green tree, you know, it's 90%. You know, they're going to eventually end up with an animal. Somebody contacts me with a ball python, it's 9% that they're going to, you know, pull the trigger, and I'm going to be driving up to FedEx and dropping off an animal. That's the difference.
Okay.
I just crunched those numbers, Bill, and yeah, the ball pythons, that's a very low percentage. I was just numbers.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your.
Okay, real quick. Oh, I got to ask all 3 of you. When was the last time any of you bought a ball python?
I haven't, but I would. I mean, I really mean that. No, man, I look at Morph Market all the time. Justin put out a video. And in the video, he was showing a clutch about 3 months ago, and I think I ran it by you guys. It was a lavender blackhead leopard, and had this cool. And I was like, I'm telling you, man, I don't think, for anybody watching this, man, don't think I am not just like you. I'm obsessed. 56 years old. I'm obsessed on these animals till this day. I saw that animal. Summer had put it out in the morning. I looked at it all day, and I'm like, you know what? God damn it. I'm going to buy this snake. And I reached out to Summer, and she had sold it. I was so grateful it was sold. I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't sold, I would have bought that animal, and then I would have bought a male to go with it. And that's the God's honest truth. So, man, I you know.
My last buy was a blackhead clown male.
From Dennis?
From Dennis.
I was with you, Bill. That was in Tinley, right?
It was in Tinley 3 years ago. That's my last purchase.
What about you, Marshall? I gotta know this one from Marshall.
Oh, geez, I don't know. Last purchase would have been in 2019.
Okay, pre-COVID.
Okay.
So yeah, purchased a couple from Ryan Young, one from Justin, and maybe one from a local buddy. And other than that, that's it. Maybe one other, but yeah, no. Just selling them. It's a one-way door for ball pythons around here.
But Gary, I got to ask you. You know, I want to kind of talk about your breeding projects. You showed some awesome fucking pure monocory pairings and whatnot. But why don't we kind of get to some of the meat potatoes of what you're really excited for going into next year as far as pairing, or maybe what's already paired up right now?
I'm hoping to kill it this year, guys. I really am. And
deserve it.
Yeah, I'm hoping to kill it. I have 3 or 4 chondro pairing, you know, definitive locks, quite a few of those. I have what I think is a gravid female green sand zinnia right now, man. She looks awesome. She's off a feed. She's doing all the right things, different than the female I had last year. So I'm hoping to see an ovulation on her. I really want to breed those animals badly. My diamonds have locked up. I have T-positive children eye. I had both 2 pairs locking up on those. Couple ball python pairings, and I think that's it. What I really want, man, is with diamond pythons, I only bred them one time, and my female, she died egg bound, unfortunately, so I never got eggs from her. I'd love to hit on the northern emeralds, man. I have 2 beautiful adult females, and I got a beautiful animal. I have a male on breeding loan. I've had him for 2 years. I don't know if the females are just not producing follicles or anything yet, but he has not done anything. So I have another male coming in from somebody who I really like and trust. It's supposed to be an 8-foot northern male. He's had it for about 10 years as his pet.
8 foot? What?
8 feet.
Yeah, 8 foot
That's
northern male.
That's not the shed that he's measuring, right? I just want
it was the shed. Yeah, why, that makes a difference?
Yes.
Yeah, no, he said it's 8 foot. So we'll see when it comes. But I know it's going to be a really big animal, and I hope it's an aggressive feeder. But yeah, hey, listen, I love, you know, my chondro story. I watch Bill, man, and fucking crushes it every year. Truth be told, with me, with chondros, man, I've had a lot of success with them in the past. I bred chondros. So I got chondro the first time in I'd say 1994. And I bred them over the, I had clutches over the years. I never had anything substantial though, probably until 2004, something like that, where my biggest clutch so far was like 16 eggs for an RFAC female. That was my best clutch. And then in 2013, I hatched over, I say I hatched, I didn't breed. I hatched over 100 baby chondros in 2013.
That's
but
crazy.
27 of those eggs were not my eggs. The remainder, you guys could do the math, 100, whatever it was like, I produced probably 70 or 80 babies of my own that year, but I had a gentleman who didn't have an incubator set up. He did a pair of arrows and I hatched them for him. But I always say since 2013, I haven't hatched over 100 chondros since 2013. I just haven't. So I'm enjoying living vicariously through you guys and Marshall. You're two gravid females in our.
I haven't hatched 100 since 2013 either.
Yeah, but
I've
you have
never had 200.
hit a good chance for you this year. Good chance. And I love what you're doing with the removing the perches, doing the drawers. I think that's the way to go. I follow that theory and I think it's awesome. So good luck with that.
Yeah, worked well last year. A couple people have Ryan Young obviously turned me on to it, and we've had a couple people on the show that do the same thing.
Yeah.
Kind of takes all the, dropping them off the perch, getting them in the water bowl, just takes all that away.
Absolutely. Yeah, so good luck with that. But yeah, I'm really hoping to crush it with the chondros this year. So we'll see.
I was one of the and this is going to happen any chondro keeper just getting into it, but your first prolapse is quite the experience. It's shocking. It's pretty scary. You definitely think it's over for that snake, which most cases it is, but not always. Your YouTube channel, man, your prolapse video was a godsend. I love that video and it's helped me a lot. It's been a while since I've dealt with a prolapse, thank God, but still, like, that kind of shit right there makes people still hang in here. You know what I mean?
Well, thanks, MJ. I have to make an amendment to that video, and I give Bill honestly all the credit with the chicken gizzard thing, because I've gotten so much better with prolapses because of that. What you figured out, Bill, honestly. It doesn't work every time, but I feel like the animal has a much better fighting chance. In fact, boys, I have one right now. I'm waiting to defecate any moment. I'm praying that it doesn't prolapse. Man, between prolapses and babies not feeding, man, and honestly, another thing that I've really, what, MJ, it's like that video I made on prolapses. I would love to do a video on incubator. Like, if you're watching this right now, and you have arboreals, you're keeping emeralds or chondros, man. I think the most important piece of equipment you can have is an incubator. Between treating respiratory infections, between treating dry sheds, between prolapses, and between what's the other one? Prolapses, dry sheds, respiratories, and there's one other thing. But man, I use my incubator so much for simple medical procedures in these baby arboreals and these arboreal animals, man. It really saves so many animals for me, and I cannot stress that enough. For example, I have a baby chondro right now. Doesn't happen a lot, man, but I got a baby chondro with a respiratory infection. You take a baby chondro with a respiratory infection, you throw it into an incubator at 85 to 86 degrees with 100% humidity, just damp paper towel on the bottom in the 12 or 15 quart. I am telling you, within 48 hours, that respiratory will be gone. It's just going to be gone. Can't say that with a larger animal, but I am going to tell you that's always going to be the case with a baby. With prolapses, I'll stick them in the incubator just because it's that consistent temperature. Shedding, I'll stick them in the incubator, and I'll just, again, in a 12, 15 quart Rubbermaid with damp paper towel or slight water. And that'll take care of, a dry shed. So yeah, and I want to make a video on this and these things. I think would help so many people, but the reality is, and I should do it anyway, but when I make videos specific to like an incubator or prolapses, nobody watches them. That's the reality of it. Nobody watches them, it's like my lowest viewed videos, and it's like you put so much time and effort into it and they're the lowest viewed, but I still have to do it.
Well, so what are your more higher viewed videos?
People love to watch when I have animals available. I do a specific species profile, diamond pythons.
Care videos do really good for you too.
What's that?
Some care videos where you're going deep and you're showing when you're actually like showing the actual animal and the enclosure.
Yes.
Like the Keith McPeak care video on the emeralds did really well.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah. Yeah, I have a bunch. You know, I'm so spoiled because my first video I ever made has like, it's coming up on like 70,000 views. That was my first one. So I'm thinking, wow, they're all going to get like this. It just doesn't work that way. But it's my fault because I have to make more videos. It's just that simple. And I love making them, guys. It's the most fun thing I love making the videos, man. It's just really just finding the time, and every video you see takes hours of prep for me to try to make them, you know? So, but I do love making
and
them.
I want people to take note of that too. You know, I feel like one of the reasons why a lot of your stuff is, you know, just so awesome is because you do put a lot of thought into it, and it's properly like prepared for, you know, and you go all out sometimes. I will really say, like, you really go in on some of the stuff you talk about. I love it.
I try, man. Yeah.
You've got there's an entertainment factor there that very few other channels have, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. That to me, that's what really distinguishes your videos from the other videos out there, is the entertainment value that goes along with the education. Because you put some stuff together that just, I mean, it's just so fucking funny.
Well, I appreciate it. And actually, when I release them and I do a bit in there, my wife and I are like, we literally look at each other and we literally like, what the fuck are we doing? Did we just really dress up like the elf, Buddy the elf? Like, what am I doing? You know? And it's some of my daughter's friends follow me, and my daughter doesn't follow me. And yeah,
I mean, she's probably she's gotta be mortified.
Oh my God. Even the one today, you know what I mean? Her friends, she's like, Emily told me that what were you doing in the yard about drones? I'm like, nothing. Emily's a liar, honey. Don't listen to her.
Gary, do you remember back ages ago now, you contacted me because you wanted to start a Facebook page, and you go, like, I had started one. I was no expert, but maybe I'd started one a year before. And you're like, I don't want all of my business people going on my Facebook and seeing, you know, because probably like me, when I was in practice, you know, I didn't go around announcing the fact that I had 300 snakes in my garage. And, you know, it just kind of, there's a little bit of a weird factor, you know, right, for people that aren't accustomed to what we do. And I just remember you contacting me, like, how do you separate?
I do remember it now. Yeah, I actually do remember contacting you now. I didn't remember it until you actually talked about that. Yeah, absolutely.
And you got over the hump, and look at you now.
Yeah. And you know what? The good news is, you know, as we get older, I really, at 56 years old, I really don't care anymore. I just go for it, you know? Yeah, that's right. I always say, like, I go for my inner Conan O'Brien. I love Conan O'Brien because if you watch Conan, he just goes for it, man. You know, and that's what you can't hold back. So if you're going to do something, you really got to go for it. So, yeah, well, you know, thank you for saying that. And trust me, my wife and I, we laugh our asses off making them. We have. Is there
like a bloopers? Is there a bloopers reel? Is there like
oh my God, Marshall, that video today that I shot was I think it was a 38-second video. We probably shot that about 15, 16 times. We probably shot it 15, 16 times.
With the drones? Battling the drones?
The drones. Yeah, just coming up with, like, when I say the drone ranger, we just start laughing our asses off, like, oh my God, you know, just whatever. But I'm just a frustrated comedian, you know. I really do love making people laugh. You know what I mean? Well, I love making people laugh.
Of all of your videos, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Mouse Man premiere.
That's the mice.
Mice Man, Mouse Man.
Mice Clay.
Andrew Mice Clay.
Andrew Mice Clay.
I love Andrew Mice Clay. Yeah, thank you. People love him. It's so weird though. I mean, I love doing all this stuff, but I'm not. Trust me, when I'm saying this, I'm not looking for compliments. I'm not, but it's weird because I know certain people reach out to me, but I'm not sure how a lot of people perceive that. You know, we're at a certain age group. I think a lot of people are like, that seemed offensive. You know what I mean? It's like, geez, in this day and age, you know.
Well, a lot of people probably don't even know who Andrew Dice Clay is, right?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't at first, and I looked him up, and then I remembered who he was, and I follow him to this day. He's fucking.
He's got a great Instagram.
I love his
You'll go up to random people and spark a conversation that it just confuses them, and then he walks away.
It's awesome. Dice Clay, he was ahead of his time. Yeah, so that's what I was going for. And trust me, many times when we're shooting videos, my wife and I are like, no, people aren't going to get that reference. They're not going to. We're too old. We're showing our age. They're not going to get that reference, you know. But honestly, that's who. Like, I can break down, as you can, MJ. You know, like, I can tell you the demographic on my videos is that the people who watch them are it starts in the 30s. I'm not getting the younger crowd. That's not who I know I'm going to attract. But that's why my buyers, the people, my clients, man, they're real people. The real buyers are long-term herpers, and they're serious herpers, and they're the ones I really target to, man. When I make a video, I really do. I always say to myself, what does my audience want to see? You know, I really do think that's my priority all the time. It's like, what does my audience want to see? What do they want to? What are they into? And that's what I try to always kind of do. You know.
And let's talk about this. I feel like one of the things any reptile keeper or whatever maybe underestimates is like, okay, you got your hands on a cool species, you bred it, but nobody really knows who the fuck you are or what you've been working with. I think your success is coming because how long you're rooted into this, Gary. But do you feel like some people are maybe are in for a surprise who are maybe getting some productions under their belt, but don't really have a source of way to sell them other than Morph Market? Like,
oh yeah. So you're asking, do I speak with people who don't have a source of selling their animals? Is that?
No, but what's your thought? I'm just saying, there's people out there right now currently who have cool shit, but they can't sell it. You know?
Yeah. Well, you know, listen, there's no secret to this, right? You got to put yourself out there. I didn't want to do a YouTube channel, guys. Trust me, that wasn't something I thought about doing. But, you know, as I said before, I realized every day in this hobby, there are more people getting into this hobby that do not know me than people who are in this hobby and know me, right? Yeah. Far more people do not know me than know me, right? Especially if you're a ball python person. So, yeah, I looked at it. This is not the right word because it's not an evil, but it's a necessary evil, really, to put yourself out on social media. So yeah, that's the YouTube channel, and that's you can't have it both ways. You know, I did a video selling animals, and one of the animals I put on there was a green sand zinnia male, and I said in my video that I said, hey, I'm not going to say the price on this, what the animal is in this video, but I'm going to tell you that he's far more reasonably priced than some other green sand zinnia I've seen listed. And when I said that, I'm being honest with you, I had nobody specific in mind. I was just talking in generalities, like, hey, I know I've seen him on Morph Market. I take some responsibility for, you know, bringing awareness to that particular species. Unfortunately, I also take credit for the prices went through the roof on green sand zinnia. There are guys who've been, you know, working with them far longer than I have, but I do think I brought a lot of attention to them. Yeah. And when I said that, somebody reached out. You know, you can always offend somebody, and they're like, hey, I think you were talking to me about, but I had mine out. But Gary, I also want people to know that, you know, I'm one of the first people to breed these and work with these. And I said to him, who's a really nice guy and who's really had a lot of success with him. And he's a great guy. I want to be perfectly clear on him. I like him very much. But I'm like thinking to myself, you can't have it both ways. You can't be looking for people to give you credit and give you your notoriety and give you your respect for breeding them if you're not going to put yourself out there. People don't even know who you are. You can't have it both ways, right? Facts. I'd rather not be making YouTube videos. I'd rather be right now sitting. I love you guys very much. I'd rather be sitting with my wife upstairs having a cocktail. But the reality is, you can't have it both ways, man. I love my animals. I'm super proud of them. I want to show them off. I want people to buy them. I want all those things. And you got to put yourself out there.
No doubt.
And Bill, you could definitely, and obviously Marshall by showing up every Tuesday, but like Bill, you understand the importance of, like, if you have an opportunity to speak about not only your product, but what you've been passionate about, you definitely jump on that opportunity because I feel like it doesn't hurt. Right, Bill? Well,
I mean, kind of alluding to what Gary was talking about, you know, Buddy and I started GTP Keeper Radio over a decade ago.
A lot of work.
And our whole premise to doing that was introducing people to what were really a lot of myths behind green tree pythons and trying to expose more people to, you know, the truths of particularly captive bred animals versus imported Beox that you see at your expos. So absolutely, you know, not only getting yourself out there, but getting your product, so to speak, out there and introducing, you know, just the product in general to people. I'd never heard of a green Senzinine before. I didn't know what one was until I watched Gary's video. So it's not just about you and your brand or you know, what you're doing. It's the animals, you know, and that's where we got started.
Bill actually said to me, because Gary,
just having a presence out there takes a lot of work, whether it be YouTube, whether it be Instagram, whether it be, you know, whatever.
MVF.
I mean, to put out good,
Bill actually said,
MVF, I mean, to put out good content, you know, you got to you have to try. You don't just, You know, it takes some thought, it takes some work, and YouTube, I can't even imagine, you know, having to basically write a script for a video and then edit it and film it. And
I know, right, Marshall? Man, think about that. Fuck.
Yeah.
All the work.
It's. I said to MJ before I came on, all the prep work he does before every podcast. And
thanks, Gary. That's all. I just wanted Marshall to acknowledge that. But way over that guy's head.
It's the truth. Hey, listen, but you know, I call it work, but at the same time, it's a lot of fun. You know, and we really all do. I love it so much, right? I mean. And the people, when I go to a show, it's so cool, right? Because I'm in Jersey, I go to a show in Texas, like everybody, you're walking up the tables, I'm looking at my head down, everybody's like, hey man, I love your videos. And like, that is the best feeling in the world, man. That puts you on cloud nine. And I'm telling you, and it's just, man, I really, I'm just super grateful, man. I get to I'm literally moving away from my primary career and I'm getting into snakes almost on a full-time basis, man. Come on, who can do that in a hobby? You know what I mean? That's just crazy. And my wife will tell you, it's like, I hate saying how happy I am because I think people who do that are typically not, but like, I've never been happier, like in my life, just doing this and coming home every day and getting animals and hopping on a plane and going to look at a bunch of baby Amazon basins that just came in and then, you know, having them come back with me and getting a shipment of Bolins. But this is stuff I dreamed of as a kid doing this stuff. You know, I mean, I imported animals for years. 30 years ago, I was importing animals and it was a very different experience than it is now. But Bill, you touched upon on something, man. I always want to thank you for it. It's the truth, man. Everybody in the green tree python community who sells animals should thank you. I mean, you do an amazing job of bringing other species, other people who, you know, ball python breeders and other people into green tree pythons, man. I don't do a great job of that. You do. So thanks for that, man, because you do an amazing job of that.
God bless the parties he throws.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. Without a doubt.
Okay, now let me ask, since we're talking about that, Gary. Obviously, there's, regardless of what's happening in certain demographics of the reptile market, you do know things are speeding up and getting bigger for the chondros. I know plenty of ball python people who've hit me up before they hit you up, all sorts of shit. What are your thoughts of the growth in the chondro game recently, and all the inquiries and maybe people that you're dealing with that are just now coming into the chondro game? Where do you think this is going to lead to?
I think it's going to lead to, we've all been really spoiled for a long time, right? We sell our animals so quickly. And I think that's going to continue to happen to some degree, because I think, I trust me, I monitor. I don't take these things lightly. I treat it like a real business. Trust me, I'm always looking at numbers, and I'm seeing on MORPH market, chondro numbers are bumping around from 69 to 75 animals. I think it's going to come down to just what we're talking about, is getting our names out there and letting people know that when they purchase an animal from us, it's going to be hopefully a painless transaction, and we're going to have to make sure we're always doing a great job of representing ourselves and the species. Green tree pythons are not going to be any different than any other species out there. It's going to be about differentiating yourselves. You know, we always used to think that, man, other people, you know, the guys who get into ball pythons, they're not going to be able to produce the numbers of green tree pythons. They think it's going to be so easy, and I agree with that, by the way. They're never going to be able to produce the kind of numbers in green tree pythons you could produce with ball pythons. However, they will produce them consistently, you know, and if they're putting groups, if they're doing it right and buying from good people and buying great animals, they will start having, you know, it might be a clutch to 1 to 3 clutches a year. And there are going to be more animals in the market. And it's just,
you get 4 or 5 people, you get 4, 5, 6 people doing that. And then all of a sudden there's 200 on MORPH market. So
and that's not a bad thing, man. It's not a bad thing. It's just not. And there's always going to be the next level, right? There's going to be the designer stuff, the line stuff, and people are going to be, they're always going to, I'm not delusional. I've been doing this for a long time. I remember there was a guy who said at some point, you know, in the next 5 years, I remember this, and Marshall, you know who I'm talking about. His initials are JR. He said, no chondro is ever going to be more than $500. You know, between the imports we're bringing in and people breeding them. And then Nido came in and humbled all of us. So, but look, chondros are no different than any other animal. It's just, it takes a little longer to raise them. And, you know, like I said, you're not going to produce the numbers ever you do in ball pythons, but yeah, let's not be delusional. The numbers are growing, and as more people get into them, the numbers are going to grow. So, and that's not a bad thing. You know, it's not a bad thing.
Right. But we all know that the ball python hobby itself, like the way they are judged, meaning like the more you could produce, the better. What are your take on some of those people coming in with that mentality that, like, if I could get X amount of adults, I could fucking pump out clutches and make this, like, you know, the mass production side of things, you know?
You know what, man? I remember coming up and, guys who are much older than me doing it longer than me. And I used to listen to them and I would think like, wow, these guys are just so old school and antiquated. I'm never going to poo-poo anybody's dream. It's just more difficult. The reality is chondros it just takes longer to raise them. There's just more challenges with them, but it's going to when people come in and they think they're going to turn around, a dozen females in 4 to 5 years, I don't see that happening. I don't ever see that happening.
Or getting 100 chondro babies established.
Yeah.
That's like getting 1,000 baby ball pythons established, or even worse. They're just
so much work.
And maybe that'll change. Like, I'm like you, Gary. I'll never say never.
Yeah.
But, that doesn't seem
real
likely.
The other thing is, I'll say, man, I don't want this to sound like a dumping on ball python session because, I don't just say this is not lip service. I love ball python. I bred ball pythons in 1984 was my first clutch of ball pythons. I bred 4 eggs. My friend John Martin hatched them out for me because I didn't have an incubator. But the thing here's the only thing I'll say disparaging about ball python people to me, and this is not a fair assessment of all of them, but the majority of them, I don't think they're real reptile. They're not necessarily reptile people. I'm not saying they don't love reptiles. I just don't think they're necessarily reptile people.
Boom.
And I think you got to really learn how to read these animals. MJ, you had a ball python breeder come to the trap one time, and I remember and it's somebody by the way, I really like and I have respect for him, what he's done. And I remember looking at him, he didn't even know, and I'm not slamming him. I'm just using him as a representation. He didn't know a emerald tree boa or a green tree python. I'm just saying.
Oh, you're talking about me. Oh, you're talking about Miguel.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm a fan of Miguel. I love what he, trust me, Miguel brings a lot of people into this industry. He does, man. I don't lose sight of that. He brings a lot of people into ball pythons, which eventually convert into arboreals. So I'm just using him as an example, and I didn't say his name, you did. But the point is, I just think there's a lot of, they're not necessarily reptile people, but I think a lot of them can progress to be after they get in with their ball pythons. If they're true animal lovers, I think they can make those steps.
Yeah.
Okay,
hold on. I'm going to say right now to give credit to what Gary just said, and I love Miguel too. I'm a big fan of that guy. But I'll never forget when I was getting into other species, when he first came over to my house, I was introducing scrub pythons to him. And I was like, this is a sarong locality, Barnett. He's like, why are you saying all this locality stuff? It's just a scrub python. I'm like, it's not just a scrub python, but that connection of wanting to know the locality and all that didn't really cross reference to him because he's a morph guy. And mind you, a lot of ball python people don't give two shits about the locality. If it looks good and it sells good, that's what they want. That's all
listen, they want to make money.
Money driven. That's all. And that's not a bad thing. I love money.
And as long as you're taking care of the animal, you have passion for the animal, and I don't care. Hey, listen, I make a lot of money brokering animals. I do. And I've always said, I love these animals to death. You could do both and do it well. It's just that simple, I also want to say on the other note though is, and anybody out there can vouch for me on this, I talk more people out of buying animals from me. Trust me, I do. I just posted 6 Maniquari chondros on Friday, right? And I sold 2 of the 6 so far. Typically they'll go, if I show those animals in a video and I show them, I know they'll sell quickly. But I had a gentleman reach out to me and we're talking about things, and I know he's bought a lot of animals from me already, and I'm telling him he's spending too much. I literally said to him, you're spending too much money too soon. I'm like, you can't get into that role where you're always looking forward to the next animal. Appreciate what you have. And I always tell people, anybody listening out there, never put yourself in debt over a reptile. I promise you another snake will always come along. I promise you it will. But a story I always think of, I got those I sold a lot of basins, babies and subadults over the last probably 4 years. I'm going to tell you, I probably sold about, at least 20 babies and probably another 20 subadults to adults over the last 3 to 4 years. So a lot of basins. And I had a guy call me from California as soon as I posted some ads of some baby basins, and it was one of the nicer babies, and was $5,500. And he called me up right away and he said, hey, I want the animal from you. Like, that's great. And I started asking him some questions, and I said to him, what arboreals are you keeping now? And I'm not making a joke. I wish I was. He said, what's an arboreal? That's what he said to me. I go, brother, I love you, and I can't wait to sell you a bunch of animals, and I can't wait to do that. But right now, you're just not ready to spend $5,500. And he had other animals, but so trust me, I talk a lot of people out of buying animals all the time, man. And it's not that blatant typically. It's just people who are just getting into it. They have 3 chondros. They bought them in the last 6 months. And I'll tell people all the time, man, you're cut off from me until you have another 6 months, a year, and you're cut. And people, if they're here listening, I hope they comment, because I do that all the time with people, like in the most loving way, like you are cut off from me, man, right now.
You're just trying to avoid some headaches that could potentially really fuck.
I'm trying to avoid headaches, and I want them to have a great experience. I tell them all the time, I want to sell you 20 animals. Believe me, I do. But trust, I'm doing you a favor, man. I'm doing you a favor. You got to know.
Gary, I have the same conversation with people that reach out and they want to buy an animal, and I direct them to an animal that is every bit as good as mine, but a fraction of the price. I go, listen, so-and-so has an animal for $950 on MORPH Market right now. It's your first green tree. Man, go get it, keep it for 6 months, keep it for a year. If it's all good, you like it, come back to me next year. I have that conversation all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you do that with ball python people too, Bill? And do you try to talk them out of buying a ball python from you?
Yeah, the Craigslist ads, same thing.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. But it's hey man, I'm sorry, man, but I always tell people, I've been doing this for a long time, man. I've been buying and selling. I challenge you to find somebody who ever will say Gary screwed me, man. It's just because, man, I really vet people, and that's it, man. It's just, as you said, MJ, it's partially my own selfish reasoning, right? I don't want to have people come back to me. But the other thing is, hey, man, it's an investment in somebody. I know they're going to come back and buy more animals. It should be 101 for everybody. Everybody should think that way, but they just don't, unfortunately,
One thing I like about all you guys on this screen, and it inspires me to stay this way, is like, you meet some people in this hobby and you're like, whoa, what a fucking great guy. And then there's that one story and you're like, yeah, yikes, like that's fucked up, like, and nobody's perfect. I get a lot of people come a long ways, you know what I mean? Or a lot of Tom Crutchfields out there, but I got to tell you right now, like, there's no smudge on any of you guys' names when it comes to sales. You know what I mean? And if you have that on your side, nobody can say that much shit about you. Like, let's be real. You never fuck nobody over financially in the animal hobby. And that's something that humans take mad advantage of big time.
Yeah.
I did get, I'm sorry, Bill, you're saying somebody, Marshall?
No, just agreeing with MJ. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got burned one time, really, MJ, from one person, and it was a ball python guy, but this was long before the last ball python craze. This was, and by the way, I still have the receipt for him. I bought het albino ball pythons from him. And again, when I say things like this, I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but you got to put it in perspective. This was 20 years ago. They were really expensive animals for me to buy. And I was buying them. His name was out there, and he lives in Maryland, and he was a cop. That's no disrespect to any cops, a lot of cops in my family, but I'm thinking, wow, this guy's vetted. He's a cop. He's been out there, and he sold me a bunch of het albino ball pythons, and I was going to resell them. And many of those animals turned out to be not het albinos. And I told and I was selling them 3 for $2,000, but I put in a guarantee, if they prove not to be hets, I will buy them back for what I paid. You know what I mean? And with one guy, he did contact me and he said they weren't. I basically said, you know what, keep the goddamn animals at this point. And I just sent him his money. But what happened was a lot of those animals had changed hands too. So I'm sure on other people, but that's the only thing that comes to mind where my name was attached to that. And I always have that receipt from that guy just to show people, dude, I would never burn anybody, man. He burned me, and it sucks. That's the only time I can think of where I got some bad animals from somebody.
I mean, and just as, like I said, the whole burning thing nowadays, it's like career suicide, I would say, because like
you're not going to be around long if you do that.
No, people love to burn other people. Like fucking, like it's like you give anyone an opportunity for them to fucking drag you into the mud, and dude, in the reptile hobby, motherfuckers are in line waiting to do that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you're only going to go so far, but mind you, like I feel like people prior to social media got a pass in a sense if they were able to kind of like turn the corner and not do that. But people also don't forget either. So
all the guys you hear the names that have burned people for years, and guys who I knew, like if somebody came out and asked me about them, it's like, I could say, hey, look, man, I've heard a lot of negative things about him, but I can't say they've ever burned me because I never put myself in that position. You know what I mean? I just don't put myself in that position. And when I'm buying animals from people, man, and you got to understand, when I'm buying animals, people think it's like, you know, like I'll use, you know, baby basins for an example on that. You know, when I'm buying baby basins, man, it sounds like, hey, I could tell you that I got them all feeding, I sold them all, you know, and I made, you know, I did really well on those animals. But I also going to tell you guys, you know, I had to send somebody over $50,000 in cash to buy non-feeding babies. You know what I mean? And it's really stressful, man, and it's really scary. But that's why you know, to go back to who you're buying from and stuff, the people I work with, man, I don't consider them, they're like partners with me at this point. You know, we're all in this together, man. So that helps really lessen you getting burned too, because, you know, I like to think they're looking at me saying, why would they burn me? Right. I'm a great client for them. I'm going to take everything they have. And you know, I'm not going to come back to them with little nitpicking problems. So I'd like to think they're going to take really good care of me the same way I'm taking care of my clients, you know.
Has that always been the way it's been, Gary, even 30 years ago when maybe you didn't have access to the quality of people that you're buying from now? Was there a time back in the day where you had to take much more what you felt was risk, and you would buy animals and they wouldn't thrive for you, and then you were just, you know, out significant money?
I mitigated the risk back then, Bill, by always just anything that was worth a lot of money, I would just drive to the animals. I never spent considerable money, which I would consider back then over $10,000 in having animals shipped to me. I always drove to people's collections to see them in
person.
Yeah. And like, you know, what I do now, and it's because I do, you know, very gratefully do have a reputation and a name. Now what I do with people is, hey man, I know it sounds scary for you, but the reality is I don't know you. I love your animals. You seem like a great guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'll put it in writing for you, man. I want you to send me your animals. And I promise you, I just want to be able to open up the box and look at them. And within a couple hours of me doing that, as long as they're good, you're going to have money in your account. And that's what I do with people now. I'm not going to send you a dime, but when I get these animals, and hey man, like with the diamond pipe, that's well over $10,000 when I get those animals in. And that gentleman, he watched the videos, he trusted me, and that's what I did, you know.
Yeah, that's a very powerful position for you to be in.
Yeah, well, I almost insist on it at this point, right? Because I don't want to take chances. Because you know what's really scary is most people too, they're really good people, you know, like they're not looking to burn me, but
they just don't know.
What's that, Marshall?
I said they just don't know.
It's not even that. No, it's not even that they don't know. Like if I send somebody, you know, I'll use the basins as an example. I send them $50,000 for a group of baby basins. And, you know, they have the money, say, for a week, right? And then we're waiting for a ship date because we've got to make sure. And a week or 2 weeks later, they ship me the basins. What if they come in dead? What if they get lost? Like this person may not want to burn me, but it's like, dude, oh my God,
it could be OL. Like
I already spent 12 grand. I could send you 38. That happens. Like, you know, that's a scary thing. What am I going to do? Get an attorney? They're halfway across the country.
Has that happened, Gary? Where you had a shipment in and you said, "Hey, listen, man."
No, I'm not saying it's never happened, Bill.
Never happened.
No,
that's great.
Never happened, man. No,
I mean,
with the Bowen's Python, I paid a gentleman who's a courier to drive those animals, those baby Bowen instead of putting them on a plane. I'll throw somebody a couple $1,000s to drive them to me from the West Coast to drive them to my home. And then I'll pay for that person to fly back home. That's what I do. You know, I'll pay a courier because I'm not putting that value of animals on a plane with shipping. I'm just not going to do it. You know, I'm too free because like I said, the person's not going to burn me. Their intention is not, but if that money's out, they're out the money and it's just bad. So that's how I minimize it. You know,
I've made multiple road trips.
Yeah.
To all sorts of states to meet people halfway, you know, in similar circumstances.
Yeah.
I feel one thing that people get the balls, like they start to play this like dangerous game of taking deposits on babies that just came out of the egg and stuff like that. And like, mind you, okay, like, and I know Bill does that, but that's Bill. Like, it's a whole nother fucking story, I feel like. But you got some of these guys who just take money from people before anything's been established. And not that it doesn't work out, but that's a dangerous game for me. I'm curious with you, Gary, when you do get something in like that you need to establish, what's the rule of thumb of you, like, first and foremost, feel comfortable posting it. And then obviously like putting it in someone else's collection. Like how many meals, like what's your protocol?
Yeah, I just want to make sure the animals look outwardly healthy. They'll typically have a couple meals in them. Like I'm sitting on like at least 20 animals right now with deposits right now. But yeah, I'm going to make sure those animals are just, man, I hate saying it like this. I know I'm talking about myself a lot, but I guess that's the whole point of what we're doing here today. But man, anybody who deals with me, like for example, if you send me an animal, I always tell people it's 20% down, right? And you'll have the animal. So I'll hold an animal for 30 days with 20% down. And now I say 30 days, but typically this time of the year, it's going to be longer than that. And a lot of people will say to me, hey, man, I don't want to send 20%. I have some money right now, and I just want to send you what I have right now. So if you buy animals from me, you guys know, anybody out there watching this, man, I am so deep. Like, you get a receipt from me. Dude, like, I itemize it. So let's use simple numbers. If I put a sale animal for $1,000 and somebody says, I ask for $20, 20% refundable deposit, which would be $200. Let's say they send me 500. Well, my first line item is going to say 20% down, non-refundable, right? 200. And then I'll put second line item, $300 refundable, right? Because we're always on the same page. My clients and I are always on the same page, man. I mean, somebody sent me money towards an animal today as a second deposit. Literally within an hour, they'll have another receipt from me, completely updated, how you paid me. You know, it's PayPal, it's just super detailed. And everybody's in it with me. If an animal doesn't feed or it's not doing well, they're going to have, I'm really bad in the sense that I'm not a good representation in the sense that, man, I will send people's money back a full refund like nothing. I don't even think about it because I just don't want the headache of it. You know, somebody, a month goes by and I still have a deposit. I mean, as long as you communicate with me, man, I'll be like, dude, don't worry about it because I know I'm going to sell the animal so fast. Here's your money back, It's only when people play games with me a little bit. And sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not. But it depends on the person. But most of the time, I am highly inclined, even if I'm holding with a deposit, to send the entire deposit back. But yeah, MJ. So if an animal's not feeding well or not doing well, I don't even think about it, man. Here you go. The animal's not doing well. Or a lot of times I've said to people, dude, I'm going to send you the animal if I see it's a problem or something like that. Don't pay me for it if it does well for you. But that typically doesn't happen. But man, I guess what I'm saying is I go over and above to really make people happy, And Marshall will reach out to me a lot. And he'll be like, hey, Garrett, here's my situation, man. What would you do? And it's like I almost feel bad because I'm ridiculous, man. I'm sorry, but I am. I'm thinking, Marshall, you don't have to do this, but here's what I would do. Is that pretty accurate, Marshall?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Bill,
Yeah,
oh, go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry.
I was going to say it is nice to have. And listen, we bounce scenarios off each other. I bounce
all the time. I bounce stuff off of Bill all the time.
Bounce them off Marshall, and Marshall the same. And what would you do, in this scenario? And it's always, Gary's right, man. Just take the high road. Just take the high road. It's one animal. Maybe you feel like you're not getting treated right, or maybe somebody. And Gary's right.
It's not worth it. The consequences are not worth it.
Most of the time, it's not intentional. It's just maybe maybe you sent something to somebody who wasn't ready for it, and you realized in retrospect, I should have never sent that animal to that person because they fucked it up beyond belief. Oh my
God!
Right? I mean,
Bill recently helped me with somebody about a few months ago.
Yeah, and, somebody that was local to me, right?
Oh my God, Bill, and wow, that was my all-time in all these years. And I'm not going to say anything bad about this particular client because this person was a very nice person with good intentions. But when I tell you, I went against everything I normally would have done, and I did it because I wanted to make them happy. The animal had a little bit of an issue. I told him about it, and I said, listen, I'm just going to send your money back because the animal, be clear, its vent was slightly agape. I hadn't noticed it because when you sell arboreals, a lot of times until the animal comes off the perch, you may not even notice there's an issue. It was slightly agape, and I knew the animal would straighten itself out after the next shed, but I know that this person may not have known that. And I said, listen, let me just hold on to it. And by the way, it was going into a shed, and this person was like, they were so upset because can you imagine, for us, we're pretty spoiled, right? And we get animals all the time and we get it. But if you're a person who's been looking forward to getting an animal and that date has now arrived and you're not going to get it, I really felt for this person. And I just sent it to them. And the next day they took that animal to a vet.
Oh my God! I've been that guy though before, and it's ruined my day. It's legit ruined my day. Joe Swatowski used to do it to me all the time. He used to be like, hey, MJ, be at the FedEx. It's going to be there. And they would never show up. And this is, mind you, this would be the first time me getting whatever species. And I would be really upset. I really would. Oh, because just the excitement. You think the day's coming. It's like, oh my God, what's it look like? So
this was a totally different circumstance than that scenario. Yeah. This was, this person,
by the way, I vetted this person. This person had an adult northern male emerald for a long time that was in good care, and they sent me pictures. But anyway, the one funny part of this story is just to show you how, unfortunately, some people were, hey, look, I'm not making fun of them for this. Trust me, everybody has a different financial situation. But the only reason I mention is because Bill, again, thank you for helping me with this. But this person they didn't have any experience with shipping, and they were going to ship it back. And Bill had a box and everything for this person. He was actually, that's not true. Bill was going to ship the animal back for this person. And I said, hey, just make sure that you compensate Bill for shipping. And this person paid Bill. Tell him, Bill.
I had totally forgotten about that.
Oh, God.
And like crumpled up dollar bills and
coins.
And coins.
And like just gave it to you like this? Like just
poured it onto my freezer or whatever.
What the fuck?
I took a picture of it. You know, it's like $59.80. You know, and I like take a picture and send it to Gary.
Yeah,
it was at that point. It was comical.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just one. I just had a person, and I'm not saying anything negative about him. And I actually shared this with you. I didn't tell you this person's name or anything, but I just sent I'm not even going to say what the snake was. It was a beautiful animal, and this person was very happy with it. That's the thing when you sell animals like I do, man. I want people to, I can't wait. The thing what gets me that I love when I get those messages like, dude, I just opened this box. It is so much nicer than the pictures. Like I live for that, man. Don't think I don't. I love those moments, right? And the person's like, I loved it. But hey, man, I noticed this tiny little blemish. And I'm going to tell you something. I've looked at this picture and I've blown it up. I still don't see it. So the first thing I default to is said, hey, listen. And they also asked me if I had noticed it. I'm thinking, well, if I had noticed it, I'd like to think you would have thought I would have mentioned it to you. Of course, I didn't notice it. I don't notice it now. But my default is, hey, I am sorry. I didn't see it. Still don't see it. But if you're not happy with it, I'll pay you to ship it back and I'll take the animal back. Let's just wait till after the holidays. Like, no, it's okay. I'm going to keep it. But it's the point is it's very difficult to make everybody happy, man. I'm pretty fussy and I don't even understand sometimes what people are talking about, but it's okay. Everybody's different,
Good rule of thumb. If you get that package in and you're not happy and the seller's willing to take it back, you better fucking just send it back.
Send it back.
Just send it back.
In this case, I want to clarify that they genuinely were. They really were happy and they loved the animal. But I'm thinking to myself, if you're that happy with it and you barely even notice that, why would you even mention it? You know what I mean? That's like me. I've been doing this for a long time. So many things on an animal I'll overlook on something, like within reason, right? If it has one eye, of course I'm going to say something, but like a little scale or something, like I don't know. I'm different, I guess. I wouldn't even pay attention to something like that, but I blame your generation, MJ. I'm not my generation.
Oh, hell, it's not my generation.
Yeah.
I know somebody from your generation who sold a Burmese python to somebody with no eyes and didn't tell him about it.
No, that's just crazy. That's crazy. Yeah.
All right. This is a big one here. First and foremost, please go make sure you follow Gary Schiavino, GS Reptiles on MORPH Market. That way you're on top of everything. But I got a question for you. Pick a locality that you really like working with, Gary. Green Tree Python. Locality that gives you red and yellow neos. I needed to give red and yellow neos. What would that
I'm a Manicory guy. Morelia Polker. I'm a Manicory guy. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you have 10 red neo monocories and 10 yellow neo monocories. You post them on MORPH Market. Which ones are going to sell first, and why?
Okay. Listen. The obvious answer is red, right? I get all that, but the reality is a lot of times it comes down to there's a huge price differential, right? So I'll tell you red though. I'm going to say with red. I'm not going to complicate it.
Yeah. But why though? Why red? Because I get people who ask me all the time, MJ, why would you pick red?
Because
go ahead.
If you love the parents, if you love the adults, and typically, you're going to, at this point, I'm breeding only the nicest animals I have. Typically, the red neo is going to express the phenotype of the parent. It's going to be a much closer resemblance of the parent, right? And you're buying that animal because you obviously love what the parents look like. That's why they're going to buy red.
But what do you have to? But you also love yellows, so let's give it to yellows here.
I love them all, man. Yeah, of course. In a case of Manicory, the yellow have a very different look, but it's an awesome look. A yellow Manicory, man, has an awesome look as an adult, man. It is. I can curse, right? We can curse on here.
Oh, come on.
fucking gorgeous. Yellow maniquaries,
Yeah,
are
there's something else.
gorgeous. And I'm not just saying that because I have 4 yellows posted right now, but like I can tell you exactly. No, it's the truth. I know exactly what those animals are going to look like. I could show you what those animals. I have enough of them here.
Let's do Gary, even one better. There they are. Here we go. There they all are, guys. Go get them.
I don't see them. They're not, oh, yeah. So yeah, and I know those markings, those doors, they're going to be dark blue to purple, man. Anybody who's bought them from me before knows exactly, and they're just awesome, man. If you go to the parent pick on their MJ, I should not a parent. I apologize, that pick. So that's the same animal that's about a year old, same exact animal, and they just get that bright electric.
Oh, that's the current stage of that animal right now.
No, that's just that's an animal I held back, captive hatch that I held back. That I held back a bunch of females, and that's what they're going to look like.
You kind of so you post that picture to show people what they're going to look like.
Now, and I put that in the notes, and I put that's a 2022 imported yellow Manok baby. That's what your animal's going to look like. I can tell you exactly what it's going to look like, and I've had enough of them. I can tell you that. So that's why I do that.
So what are you looking for, Gary? For like a good potential yellow neonate to maybe hold back, or do you even hold back yellow neonates? You could be honest.
I have, of course I do. I have 5 or 6 yellow maniquary females that I held back, and I do that, man, because when I'm selling animals, man, people want different price points. Yellow neonates are great because it allows you to buy into the full genetics of the parents at a discounted price. So, but I tell people, look, that animal. You watch my videos. I say very clearly on those videos, I tell people just like this. I want to be clear. The yellow baby you're looking at is not going to look like the red baby from the clutch. It's not going to be as pretty, but breed that yellow animal into a red neo, and you're going to get some outrageous stuff. But hey, man, I always remember everybody's a different budget. And I know you guys are always teasing about yellow versus red. I don't ever look at them that way because, man, when I was coming up, dude, I just wanted a green tree python. I didn't care if it was red or yellow. Of course, I lean more towards red now. Of course I do. But the point is, I just love them both, man. But you got to have both. That
was a little cheesy what you just said right now. Like, I can't see the difference. I don't think I said I can't see the difference.
Not
the difference, but you just said like I don't see red or yellow when I look at them. Come on, knock it off.
I meant like just because, dude, I couldn't afford them growing up. So if I had a red, or the yellows look like little.
Yeah, but you're balling now. Those days are gone, Gary. You're rich,
dude. I got a lot. I'm not rich, and I have a lot of yellows, and I have a lot of reds, man.
You love life.
Yeah.
You're rich with life.
Yeah, I love them. Dude, man, I'm just being honest with you. I really, man, they both make me tick. I'm being completely honest with you. If I'm buying, you asked me about maniquaries. If I'm calling up the mayor, I'm going to Marshall and I'm getting animals from those guys with the amazing designer stuff they had, I'm only buying red from them. I'm not buying a yellow neonate from Marshall or Bill. That's the truth.
But you don't have any design. I'm just going, Bill.
Well, yeah. I was going to say, I think you guys would probably agree that if you bring somebody in, or at least when I brought people into my room and I'm showing them a baby green tree python for the first time, maybe they're looking to buy their first green tree, 90% of them will gravitate to a yellow neo. I mean, that's what they think.
For sure.
Yellow, that freaking yellow looks awesome. And, at half the price or less than half the price, they're going to go for that. They're going to go for the yellow.
Bill, what happens?
My first was a yellow, and they were all the same price.
Yep.
And I picked a yellow for my first snake.
But what happens when you start watching On the Tree Tuesdays? Things switch a little bit.
Then you hate yellow.
Well, I think if you want a designer animal, you're going to go red, right? If you want a designer, you're going to go red. But the cool thing with the locality stuff, man, is that it's a complete. I think the red are nicer, but the yellow ones are it's a unique look. It's just that simple, man. It's a unique look.
And then you show people a blaze phase yellow.
That's an amazing animal.
And it blows their mind to see a blaze phase yellow neo in person.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they would pick, the person that wasn't super familiar with what maybe would morph into would pick a high blaze yellow neo over red neo I've ever produced.
1,000%. But then if you have somebody look at a red neo or a yellow neo, and you're making them choose, but then you also show them a 9-foot albino Burmese python, they're going to take that over either the red or yellow green tree python, baby.
So, But to go back to what as far as like preference, right? I mean, you don't have any designer pairings from what I know, right?
I have. So Kenny Richichi and Kenny, he has a pure RFAC male from me, and he crossed it up with a Biak animal. So we did a breeding loan.
Oh, okay.
So I do have some really cool, that were both red. That RFAC is a dominant red animal. So yeah, I have two. I have some Biak cross Aru babies. And I also have some of the stuff you have from Kristen. I have some Tamika cross Aru. I raised up 2 animals from that clutch.
God.
And I'm also...
Bro, that has to be talk of like whatever you've sold, I think this year.
Desert Cool, yeah.
Because like me, Lucas, and whoever else, I think Brian Latimer has one.
Brian has one, yeah.
Dude,
a couple other guys.
They all turned out amazing. They all look sick, all of them.
They're amazing animals, yeah. And I actually held back another one for myself this year. It's not a patternless baby, but it's a greatly reduced pattern. I held back for myself. Yeah, I held back 2. When I got the imported Maniquaris in, I got 9 yellow babies. And it's so funny, because they are still somewhat on MORPH market as far as other people posting them. But that's the stuff I stress all the time. And I hate that I have them for sale now because it sounds like such a hype game. But the reality is, from somebody who's been getting imported babies for a couple decades, it's more and more difficult every year for me to get pure locality animals in. So whenever I get an opportunity, I'm grabbing them every time. So I was able to get 9 yellow Maniquaris in and 2 red imported baby Manox, and I'm holding the 2 red ones back. You know what I mean? Just to get that new blood. So
that's Gary. That's an interesting point that you bring up. Maybe you can expand on it a little bit. The availability of imports coming in now from Indo, whether they're captive true farm babies or they're plucked out of the wild.
They're not. Yeah.
Like there's been less availability in the last 5 years.
They're not coming in anymore, Bill. Yeah, and so there's a couple things happening. The first is that they're just not coming in anymore. I'm looking my dream animals, like the stuff that I'm the thing I want. My number one target animal is a red baby. Locality animal, non-Biak, but eventually the Biaks are going to go away too. I love Biaks. I hate saying it that way because if you don't think I think Biaks are fucking awesome, I mean, I love Biak animals, right?
What do you mean Biaks are going to go away? What does that mean?
I don't mean they're going to go away, meaning that they're been coming in readily, and Aru's been constantly coming in. If you don't think that's just going to stop, I know it's going to stop because I've witnessed these animals. I've witnessed other localities just stop many times. That Tamika stuff coming in, RFAC stuff coming in. Cyclops Mountain stuff coming in.
You know why?
Stuff coming in. Sarong stuff coming in. It stops coming in.
And you know why?
Are they not coming in because no one's bringing them in, or because they're not available?
They're not available. And the ones that are coming in, Michael Cole, who's down in Florida, and Michael, who I love, Michael, man. He's a big importer and he's very passionate about the animals. Every chondro Michael can get. I used to get a lot of amazing stuff from him. Every animal that's, I should say, non-Biak. He will sell Biaks, but every other non-Biak locality animal coming in, especially anything red, Michael is just keeping for himself. I know Ryan could speak on this. He was down there helping Michael with a few things, but Michael was a big importer and he's no longer selling anything he's able to get at this point. And he's probably collected at least 100 of his own, locality stuff because we can't get this stuff. So these 2 little baby Maniquaris I got in, these little red babies, dude, they are my most coveted animals. I am so excited to have them. They're like gold for me.
It's so crazy because a decade ago,
of course,
all you had to do is be on the Bushmaster list.
Oh, of course,
on their mailing list, and
it's gone. Yeah, that's all gone. That's all gone now.
You know why? Why is it?
Oh, of course I know why it's gone. Because Bushmaster Farms is, so Cameron was affiliated with Bushmaster, but Cameron does not own Bushmaster Farms, but he basically. I think he still has some kind of agreement with anything that was produced on the farm that he would bring in, right? And the key guy who took care of everything, I know I'm repeating myself, you guys probably know a lot of this, but Vladimir gentleman who was a Russian gentleman, he was producing all the animals on the farm for Bushmaster Farms. And whatever reason, Vladimir was terminated from the farm. And I think the farm's owner's son actually started taking over. But Vladimir has since passed away. People think Vladimir passed away, and then that's why he's no longer on the farm. No, he was actually terminated first for whatever reason.
I did not know that.
He was terminated first, and that relationship dissolved, and somebody else took over. And then, hey, look, if you guys don't think a lot of these animals coming in, a lot of these imported animals, and I'm not saying anything out of line. I'm just giving anybody out there watching this a heads up. A lot of these imported animals you see on MORPH market, okay, I'm not saying all of them, but I am saying there's a fair percentage of imported adult chondros being brought in that are Nido positive. They're Nido positive animals. Okay, it's as simple as that. I know that for a fact. I'm not speaking out of turn. That's 100% true. So we know Nido affected other collections as well. So I don't know if anybody will ever know what happened on the farm at Bushmaster, but I'm just knowing they're not producing them anymore. And if they are, it's a greatly reduced amount. Rico Walder and he brought stuff in himself. Rico and I did a lot of joint stuff. Rico would go over and we would split clutches all the time that were coming in from Bushmaster. And so, yeah, I hope that answers your question. It just stopped. They're not coming in. And now Cameron has since retired. Cameron is now completely out of the business. He still has a little bit. He keeps one hand in the business a little bit, but anything coming out of the Strictly farm now, it used to go to Joe Switowski. Joe Switowski for the last few years had anything coming out Cameron was bringing in, went right through to Joe Switowski, including Chondros. Joe is now, I believe, since he's now out of the loop, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. I think that's my understanding, but everything is now going in through Strictly. Anything that Cameron is able to still import out of out of the Bushmaster farm, all goes directly to Strictly Reptile, and they're now selling those animals. So what we knew of Bushmaster and those animals no longer exist.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
That's
no
great.
longer exist.
So what are they doing with them if they're not selling them? Are they hoarding them? Or they
Marshall, I have no idea, man. I have no idea. I'd love to know. That'd be a great story for somebody. I don't know. I think
that Nido could have decimated the Bushmaster farm breeding stock like it decimated so many collections a decade ago and longer.
Yeah, I can tell you, I know for a fact. So I got all the Manox, and again, here I go. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna put my sales hat on for a second, but all these little Manox I have are all Nido tested. And I've been sitting on these baby Manox since October. I only Nido tested them last week because, as you guys know, it's difficult to get a good parasitic load right from a baby. So now they're all on like small mice. I wanted to get them up to a good size. And then my wife and I just Nido tested 11 babies last week and sent them all to Rao. I wanted to get a good dose. And every one of them came back negative. And the reason that's important is because I know for a fact animals that came in on the same shipment as my animals are tested positive for Nido.
Wow.
Okay. Whoa. Now I know about that shipment. Can you imagine all the shipments I don't know about? Yeah. And by the way, I'm not insinuating the people who are selling those animals on Morph Market know they're Nido positive. I'm not insinuating that at all. I'm simply saying that these animals are collected they're wild collected. They're coming in as captive bred because it's illegal to export adult chondros out of Indo, right? They got to be captive bred from a farm, and they got to be farm, from parental stock. So any chondro you're seeing that comes over here, it's larger than a baby. It's not coming in legally. It's coming in legally. It's just not what it's supposed to be. It's misrepresented. And those animals are all put in small cages. You guys have seen enough videos. I'm sure they're all put in small cages until there's enough of them to export, or until the paperwork is done and so they can get them exported. And those animals are all together, defecating, spreading urates in the same water sources, and they're all eating, out of that same. And that's how a lot of them that are non-Nido animals will become Nido positive when they're at the transit station waiting to get exported into the country of origin. Now, the reason I love getting babies is because I know the babies are not being communally kept like that because they're so small. They will be kept individually. So, hey, man, it's all part of educating people and letting people know what's going on. So, again, I want to tell you, I'm not insinuating if you buy an imported wild-caught chondro, or if you buy an imported chondro from somebody that has Nido, I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that there's a pretty good chance it may have Nido, and you should get it tested, or insist that the seller test it.
Yeah, but
are you Nido testing all your everything that comes through, or how are you? What?
It depends on if I'm dealing with captive bred baby chondros. I'm not, Marshall. I was never testing captive hatch babies before, but only because I knew that some of those animals had come in. Did test Nido positive. I did that. Every baby Boeleni that I get is tested before I even get it, and that's part of the agreement I have. I have to have a Nido, and they're tested here in the States, by the way. They're tested here in the States. But what's going to happen, man, a lot of these guys who are bringing in animals, I know Dan at DM Exotics, what Dan is on his last shipment, he got a bunch of animals in. He did Nido test them. They all came in negative. But as Dan, we've talked about, is that, guys like Dan are getting nervous, right? Because what happens if you bring in a bunch of chondros now, right? And now they're Nido. What do you do with these animals anymore? So something's going to have to give, where maybe the exporters are going to have to start doing tests on. I have no idea, man, but I don't import I don't import, wild caught adult animals. I try to get my hands on the captive hatch babies. However, I would love to get, if it's very difficult to come by locality type, I would be very open to get them as long as the animals were Nido tested before they came to my hands.
Yeah, but let's talk about how much you could really trust a Nido test unless you're actually the one testing it.
Well,
Agreed.
I think, well, real quick, I just think a lot of people who are just coming into the game think it's like, oh, well, this came with a Nido test, I'm fucking good. No, you're not good.
Yeah.
I don't think you're good at all. I think first and foremost, you can't even base it off one Nido test. First and foremost, you need multiple tests, I feel like.
Yeah. I can only tell you, I agree with you. I'm not going to disagree with anything you said, but I can only tell you that when I've Nido tested adults, both Nido negative and Nido positive adults in carpet pythons, where I had a case where I had one animal that was Nido positive, breeding with an animal that was Nido negative. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know it, right? So what happens is I have an animal that gets a respiratory infection. Before I start treating it, the first thing I do is I test for Nido. Turned out the animal that tested positive for Nido, or I should say the animal that had the respiratory tested negative for Nido. The animal that tested positive tested negative for Nido, and it was, and they were breeding together. Okay, so you would think if one had it, the other one had it, especially because I think we both agree that a great way to spread Nido would be through the water source, a water bowl, if they were drinking from the same water bowl. But in any event, I went on to test those animals 3 times, and I could tell you that every single time the positive animal was positive and the negative animal was negative. And the reason I did this, the first time I ever did multiple tests in the same animal, because I couldn't believe that an animal that was breeding with a Nido positive animal, and I drank from the same water source, because I had them housed together for a long time. I had a difficult time actually believing that that animal would still be Nido negative, and it was Nido negative. So I'll only tell you that the tests seem to be pretty consistent, as long as you get a good load, a mucus load, when you're going to test the animals. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, I guess.
What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Well, I was going to say, just for me, I think any animal that was with a Nido positive animal, I mean, I would need to have that animal separated, and I would have to have 3 independent Nido tests over a year that were all negative for me to just then say, okay, well, that's kind of weird, but yeah, the animal's still negative. To me, man, that's really, I agree with you, Gary. It's like the odds of it not being Nido positive or
crazy,
would be low. So I would be very hesitant under those circumstances to call that animal Nido negative still, unless you had multiple tests over literally a 12-month period.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
But it's kind of like the way some people don't even realize what a real quarantine room is. Like people think quarantine is like, okay, I'm going to put it on the opposite corner of the other cages. And I'm not saying you can't do that, but really, like, you need to isolate the fucking animal. Like the animal needs to be completely separated from everything else. Otherwise, you're really not pinpointing whatever it is that you might possibly have. But I don't know. I just want to get a detail for anyone new coming into this to realize what these steps really mean and why you should really consider doing them the right way.
I agree with you 100%, but I think what we have found out is that, thank God, Nido is not airborne. Yeah. So I think there's
anything else.
So I think there's a very good chance you could have a Nido positive animal in the same room as Nido negative animals and it not transmit it if there was no physical contact. And as long as you had good, hygiene between animals. In other words, you're not using the same feeding tongs. You're not, handling the animal and then not sanitizing and then handling the other animal.
Seems risky, though. It seems risky to me because, I mean, like,
I agree. It's not
careful as
I agree.
As careful as you are, man. There's going to be that one time when you're like distracted or like, if that's really all it takes,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of correlations between Nido and COVID. And both of those viruses are actually very weak viruses. And it takes a substantial load to transfer a Nido positive load to an animal that's Nido negative. It's probably not just one little, you touch it for a second and then you go over and touch that animal and now all of a sudden it has Nido. It's probably a significant load over a significant amount of time that would cause the animal to become Nido positive.
I think it's the same way you get herpes. You got to kiss that shit. You know what I mean? Like you got to fucking. It has to be physical. Like it has to be like, you know, there has to be that contact. I feel like.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan says, you know, again, Ryan in the comments, we don't know all what it takes. But anecdotal is the word, Ryan. Okay. But I think, you know, luckily, I think, you know, it's pretty clear cut that it's not airborne.
Yeah.
And if it's not airborne, that means it could literally be sitting in a cage right next to each other.
Yeah.
And if you never cross-contaminated with water, touching, physical contact between the two animals, then there's a good chance that it's not going to be transmitted. And that's great. And that's great news.
Yeah. And that's why I've done enough. Trust me, I'm far from a Nido expert, but I remember you had the gentleman on from RAL and just listened to a lot of different people talking to Nick Mutton about it. And just based on everything, the one thing that is consistent, like you said, Bill, it is a weak virus, you know, and it is difficult to spread. But I'll just say this, man, it's not the popular opinion. By the way, Nido is very real. I'm not a Nido denier. I test the animals. I'm not, trust me, I know. I lost a lot of animals due to Nido that I know now, that we didn't know it at the time. And I'll tell you guys that if it comes down to me having to get a separate feeding tongue for every single animal I feed, I'm going to get out of reptiles at that point. I'm just not doing it.
I'm out.
I'm just not doing it. You know, I grab my rodents by the tail, like my rat when I'm feeding, and I'm like, I'm not even grabbing them by the body, and I'm just like, boom, just like swinging them, boom, boom, boom. And again, man, I'm just being real. I see people all the time. It's like, oh, my quarantine is this and my this, and I'm looking at people and maybe I'm wrong, but I just know they're full of shit. I just know when I'm watching a lot of people and they're talking about their, you know, like for me coming up in this, you know, my biggest fear is mites. I just don't want mites. You know what I mean? So when I'm doing my first quarantine, man, it's just about treating for mites, and I treat every animal like it has mites. I just do. I don't care where it comes from. I learned that the hard way, boys. I did, and it wasn't that long ago. I got an animal in from somebody, and I got mites, and the point is, so mites are my biggest concern, man.
Mites is a whole different animal, so to speak, because
and I can eradicate them. You know, if I get them, I haven't had them in many years, but I can eradicate them pretty quickly. That's not a big deal. So when it comes to Nido, I mean, I know Nido is real.
That's like my biggest fear is having to get like finding mites, you know, that have infested everything. Like, holy shit!
Oh yeah,
it's almost like I don't know what I would do. Think about getting rid of them from a large, you know, and not that, you know, 200 snakes is huge, but I mean, that would be the biggest nightmare.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. And the last time I had them, it was a nightmare. And I learned the lesson the hard way. I don't know, man. Like I said, I think a lot of this stuff just comes down to, you got to use common sense. I really genuinely treat every animal in my collection like it has Nido. Like, you know, when I'm doing Nido tests, it's no joke, man. I'm hitting my hands with a sanitizer between every animal, using a different probe to, you know, I hold the mouth open with the probe. I have my whole set of probes out, one for every animal. So I do treat it very seriously. But, you know, at some point, like I said, I've known people who are like, man, I do this, or I know people who put down entire collections. I won't put an animal down with Nido. I'll ship them out free to people. I've done that before. Hey, I tell, of course, ahead of time, this animal. And people have Nido collections.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't think they don't. They have Nido collections, you know, and it's been proven that you can breed two Nido positive animals together, and the offspring can be Nido negative, you know. So you got to educate yourself too. I understand too the new generation coming up, and again, I don't want to sound like I don't think it's serious. No, man, I know it's serious, but you also have to use common sense, you know, and just, you know, don't panic. It's not going to spread to your collection like that. It's just not, you know. But like I said, I treat it seriously.
Yeah, agreed 100%.
Yeah.
Use common sense and know what the virus can do and can't do, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Can we all cheers real quick? Can we cheers?
Yeah.
Cheers to a great episode so far. It's been amazing. Happy holidays.
Again, thank you for having me, man.
I'll let you know I still have more than half of the bottle left.
Good.
I was just about to ask.
Right.
Yeah.
More than half.
Well, we got more to talk about. Trust me.
Yes.
Now, Gary, I got to ask you, you have not experienced a live birth experience yet, correct, with the snake, or have you?
One time. Well, one species several times. Eryx conicus.
Conicus. Yeah, I was going to say.
I don't even know if it's Eric. Is it Eric still? I'm not even Ryan.
It's
I know you're there.
Gondolopus.
Oh, Gongus. Yeah, Gongus. Yeah. So yeah, I've done sand boas, Conica sand boas, and I did have a slug of Amazon basin emeralds. I had 9 slugs of Amazon basin emeralds. So
and I know you're very passionate to accomplish that, just like myself.
1000%, man. Yeah.
So what do you think it is? Like, what do you think the big kicker is with these emeralds, the Sanzinia, the whole getting them to go? Yeah. What have you learned?
I think the secret to all these animals is getting them cold and not being afraid to do it. That's what I think. I even brought my northern emeralds down this year. I brought them down to probably the low 60s just because I cooled the whole room. I have diamond pythons in there and I got green Sanzinia. I just cooled the whole room down. But honestly, man, I'm feeding some pretty big meals to these northern girls. MJ, you're the man. You get your emeralds copulating constantly. Look, in my defense, I always think I just want to say something as far as with all the breeders out there, man. I'm no Ryan Young. I'm no Keith McPeak. I like to think I read the animals, somewhat well. I've learned a lot from Ryan and Keith. Those guys have taught me a lot. But the reality is that sometimes, man, guess what? You just get lucky. In the sense, and I'm not saying they get lucky. I'm only saying that sometimes I'll use an example. Diamond pythons. I had a pair of diamond pythons, and I do the same thing I did with the diamond pythons I have now. And those diamond pythons just bred. They copulated right away. You do the same exact thing, same routines with the same species, and sometimes they're just not a compatible pair. It just so happens sometimes, The diamond male I have right now, he's bred to a jaguar carpet. I produced some amazing offspring with this pure male diamond. I can't get him to breed with my other diamonds, my other pure female diamonds. In fact, one of them I sent off to Martin Roseman this year. He had lost one of his females. He was really down and out. I don't usually do that, but I'm like, hey, Martin, I got this beautiful female. He really wanted the bloodline. I sent it. So yes, I would love to breed my northern emeralds, MJ. I would love to have a litter of green Sanzinia. And when they're old enough, I'm raising up a group of Amazon basin. Yes, that would make me really, really happy. Absolutely, that would make my day.
Yeah, we're all definitely rooting for you. But it is crazy, as Marshall will even say. Like, there's so many odds you're up against with these goddamn emeralds, and we've seen a lot of different outcomes. I feel like this year I've seen a good amount of not only successful litters, but a lot of slug out litters, a shit ton of slug outs. Mm-hmm. And and even myself, I went through my mishap with my female retaining all that shit, and she ended up passing. But as you
did you see the guy? Did you see the guy today with 15 awesome perfect babies, no slugs?
I just saw that right now. So it's really but okay. And like Gary said, that could easily be fucking luck. Not that I'm saying the guy got lucky, right? But I feel like the repeat of what you're doing really matters. But I don't know where I was getting at. Thanks, Marshall. You really fucked up my train of thought right now.
Sorry.
I don't know now. Oh, I got it now. What I was saying is I've talked to Ed and even Ryan Wollison and Chris Rice. And there's sometimes where even if you're getting locks from a male, that just like anything else, that male might not have good sperm, or might not even be having enough for it to ovulate, and that's why sometimes you deal with slugs. All I know is man, you get what you can get when it comes to that shit. It's either going to be good, okay, or really, really bad.
MJ, look at and I'm totally embarrassed. I can't come up with his name. Uncle
Mike. Uncle Mike, yeah.
Uncle Mike.
He had 16.
Look at Uncle Mike.
His first go at it.
Just
and he never removed the male. They cohab the entire time in a fucking goddamn big 4x2x4, and he had a cement tub full of water that had running water, thinking outside the norm, did things completely on his own, and he had success.
And Uncle Mike is one of those guys I want to be perfectly clear on. I will never use the word luck with him. Mike, he just reads those animals, man. He knows how to read. If you're working with monitors, man, he's bred so much stuff. He will do. And guess what? He just got in 2.1 Bolini from a friend of mine on breeding loan, and I guarantee you he'll be producing Bolini too. I guarantee
you. See what he put him in? In big ass monitor style enclosure.
Yeah, he'll breed him. I know he will. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I love it.
So let's talk about Bolins real quick. I mean, I think it's a unique position you're in, getting fucking these amazing, we would have thought about this 5 years ago, you getting these Bolins in, holy shit, where do you think the market's going with Bolins? You've had the best prices from what I've seen for sure. Are the prices, do you think, going to stay around there? Are they going to get lower? Like, let's talk about the bull.
I'm hoping they stay around there. I mean, again, I give all credit to the relationships I have. You know, I think I know Ryan Gradney had a pair. He brought in one pair of Bolinai this year, Ryan, but I think I'm the only person able to get him into the country this year because of the relationship I have with somebody here in the country. I try to get Bolinai every year, guys. Every year I try to get Bolinai, and I usually get none. And this year I had 13, so it just worked out that way. They're awesome. They're just awesome animals. You know, they're worth, the hype is real on them. They're just awesome. If you have the space, man.
Quick question: the babies, are they all Are they captive hatched? Does Papua allow, or does Indo allow export of wild caught, or like what is the deal with them?
Yeah, I'm not taking questions at this time, Marshall. I made a whole video on it. I made a whole video on Bolinai about exactly how they come to the United States. I'll just say this. I alluded earlier about parental stock, you know, about how you get green tree pythons. And by the way, I'm too old to go to prison. And when my head hits the pillow, I go to sleep at night. I don't want to have to worry about anything. So every baby I get is brought into the country legally. These are not smuggled animals by any means. They leave the country. They leave Papua New Guinea. They leave Indonesia legally. Okay, they do as captive bred and born babies. So I'm not going to lie to you or insult you. I'll just say that, you know, how they start out and how they get here. I couldn't confirm it exactly, but, you know, I have my suspicions, but I don't believe they're necessarily captive. I'll just say I don't think they're captive bred. I think they're wild collected from nest and then imported into the United States as captive bred animals, the same as a lot of other species like green tree pythons. I think that's how it works.
I'm curious. So, Gary, what has been the results of you putting some of these Bolinais into keepers' hands? Are you know, mostly like everyone figured it out, or any like issues like, oh my God, it won't eat or anything like that?
No, man, I sold 13 of them. The last female I sold, they're all kicking ass. By the way, the person I got them from, they got them feeding before I got them, and that actually had to happen because it took a while to be able to get them over here. So we didn't have the luxury of just saying, hey, you know, I'll get them feeding when they come here. They had to get some meals in them because it was an extended period of time. So by the time,
Gary, are they typically known to be easy to get started or hard to get started?
I have not worked with a large enough sample group to answer that question, Bill. I could tell you the first baby Bolinai. So the first baby Bolinai I went to import, I imported myself. I imported the first baby Bolinai, and I'm going to give you a year. I'm going to say it was like 1990, in the early 1990s. And I was supposed to be I got baby Bolinai in, and I got in Borneo blood pythons, which at the time were some of the very first ones actually to come into the States, which was really cool. And but the baby Bolinai was supposed to be 1.1. It was a 4-foot male and a 7-foot male.
Oh, wow.
I sold those animals to the Bronx Zoo. Yeah, they were imported wild collected. I didn't even want them because I wasn't capable of taking care of adults. I thought I can get babies feeding, but not adults or sub-adults. So they went to the Bronx Zoo. That was the first time I had any experience bringing Bolinai into the country. I never tried bringing them in again. And years later, I got in another pair of baby Bolinai, and Michael Cole had imported them. That was probably that was about 2004, 2005. Those animals were not feeding. And I was able to get them feeding by, listen, truth be told is today I have a lot more experience. I think I'd be able to get those babies feeding pretty quickly, but at the time I did not have the experience. So when they didn't take the traditional fuzzy mouse for me or live pinky rat or fuzzy rat, somebody had told me by dipping the prey item into egg yolk on the actual chicken egg, that would get them going. And that's how I got both of those animals going, chicken egg. So I can't use those as a good base though, Bill. Yeah. But I'll tell you, in general, I find that they're pretty good feeders. They feed pretty well. Yeah. One female, you asked me that question, MJ, one of the 13, it was the irony is the one I held back the longest that was feeding really well. The gentleman who purchased it for me, great guy. He had lost his male. He had lost his female. He had his male. And I make sure everybody who got them, I didn't sell any pets. Everybody who had them either already had Bolinai or they were buying a pair from me. I was not selling them as, hey, man, I'm going to get these on. And that's the God's honest truth. I hate to make it sound like I'm putting myself on a pedestal, but it's the truth. That's important to me, man. I want to make sure those animals, because, again, if you think Bolinai are going to continue to come in the country, it's just they're not. It's not going to happen. So anyway, the last person, his did eat for him, but she wasn't feeding as aggressively. And again, as I mentioned to you, I followed up with him like a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, "Thanks for following up." Yeah, she's kicking ass, man. So all those animals are thriving and they're doing great. You know, a lot of these animals got reputations just because they came in as scrappy imports over the years, right? But the animals, they come in better now. We're far more educated now. We know how to take care of these animals. So it's the same adage with green tree pythons, right? When they used to come as imports, they were aggressive. We all now know a lot better. So
I've seen the whole transition from Boelens being like a gatekeeping fucking species to now it's not so gatekeeped anymore. It's a lot more openly like what you're doing. I love what you're doing with Boelens. Yeah. I think that you're the guy that needed to do this for Bull and I.
Well, yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that because it's a truth. You know how many Bull and I have been out there? They have been available, but people were not comfortable buying them from those people.
Yeah, well, look what Nerd look how Nerd was displaying them on their website for years. $12,000, and then they weren't really the best quality of Boelens either.
Yeah. And listen, I always tell people, I'm always going to make money. Trust me, I do make money, but man, I'm not looking to gouge people, man. I'm just not, man. I'm trying to keep them at I will tell you that the only thing I'll be honest about is I knew I was going to be the only one to bring them in this year. I probably would have sold them for more money, but it's okay. They went to great people and great hands. So I'm really happy with the way that all transpired. But, you know, when we talk about these things, like I said earlier, hey, man, it all ended well. I got them in. They all ate. They did fantastic. The new owner is happy. They love them. I get emails. I get messages on Bo and I, at least several a week when you get more Bo and I, So now I could look back, man, it was a great story, right? But when you're laying out legitimately tens of thousands of dollars to get these animals, don't think I'm not stressed. Don't think I'm not stressed.
That's another thing too. Like all this time you're spending establishing.
Absolutely.
Dude, there's stress involved in this.
I sat on those animals for months. Man. I know those animals like a book, man. When I sell those animals, I know exactly how they're feeding. So many times people have said to me, "Hey, Gary, you could sell stuff for me. Do me a favor. Can you post it for me? And then I'll just ship it." Like that's happens. Any animal that leaves my hands, man, is in my hands. It's that simple. It's there with me. I can tell you exactly how it's feeding, and there's no guesswork, man. It's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Gary. I just feel like there's a lot of things to be kind of like, okay, I spent a lot of time getting this fucking animal to eat, but I'm not going to overcharge you for it. Like you're still like going to sell it how you feel it should be sold, regardless of the time that you put into that animal. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want to. I'm not. You know, and I don't think I put the prices out of the Boelens pythons in my videos, but even in my videos, if you notice when I put animals out, I'll say the prices in the videos. I'll put, you know, hey, this, whatever. I'll typically announce prices. And the reason I do that is because, you know, I remember coming up in this and people would give everybody a different price, you know, depending on who you are. They give you this guy. I kind of do that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do that because now you saw it. It's on the video. You know, if you're buying diamond pythons from me, you know, the last video I put out, I did a sales video, and you know, if you're buying a diamond python from me, here's the price of the diamond. If you're buying one of the chondros from me, here's the price. And that's why I like to do that. It was like pretty consistent, you know? So.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like I said, man, I'm not putting myself on a pedestal, but I genuinely, man, I try to do everything right, man. I treat people how I want to be treated. It's just that simple, man. And when you're spending that kind of money with somebody on animals, I don't take that lightly. You're trusting me. And the documentation you get from me on an animal, it's like everything you need. You get a chondro from me, baby. You know exactly how I'm keeping it. You get a complete care sheet, exactly how I'm keeping it. You get the husbandry card. You know the last time it ate, the last time it shed. An invoice, exactly what you paid, and you get a genotype certificate. You get a hard copy of the animal, a picture, a nice gloss that I use a Photoshop for. I don't print it out myself. It's a gloss picture. We get the picture of the parents, the hatch date. If I didn't produce it, who produced it? And it's pretty cool, man. I think people really appreciate that kind of stuff.
Do you have any sense, Gary, if there are going to be more Bull and I available? Do you have any sense, like?
I was told there would be. And I should have them Q1 of 2025. So we'll see. And I know the people who are telling me that are awesome people, trustworthy and everything, but you know, they've been promised them. So we'll see what happens. You know, I'm hoping to get them.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Gary. What's the, like what's the not competition, I guess, but I guess competition, but like for instance, if you know there's some fucking bull night coming in, how many other people are you having to beat to the races here? Like what are we talking, like you know, people like, you know, other people trying to get their hands on what you're trying to get?
Well, I'll tell you, the competition seems to be from other countries, not necessarily within the US, because there were a lot more baby Boeleni that were available this year, and none of those animals, I know where they went. They went to another country, and they did not come to the US.
What country? China? Just kidding.
I'll say it's not China. I don't know if I could say, so I'm not going to say.
What?
Sorry. Yeah, I know. Listen, people tell me
Mexico?
things. People tell me things in trust, and I just don't, you know.
It's all Canada.
Yeah, I don't know. Only because I don't know how many people know that. And the reality is, if I say that, you know, the person who maybe, you know, they might, you know, like, wow, only one person knows that. So I just rather not say it. Sorry.
Respect, I guess.
Canada be a good guess.
Yeah.
Norway.
Let's go with Canada. This crazy Canucks have all the ball and I.
Okay, but since we're on the topic of, you know,
Yeah.
global stuff, is there anything that you really respect, either in the green tree python world, emerald tree, diamond python, whatever, anything across the world that you were like really like tapped into and like respect? And is there a certain line globally that's not here that you really like or pretty admire or anything like that?
No, I think the countries of origin, you know, any animals coming out of a country of origin, meaning, you know, Indonesia, PNG and stuff. I mean, I don't necessarily have respect for them in the sense that, you know, the animals are a commodity for them, right? What I have really something really cool that I don't think they'd mind me sharing with you, but, you know, I deal with Kristen a lot over at with Fascination. I got to know her and Eric pretty well, man. They're good friends, and they're building a pretty outrageous facility, a reptile breeding facility. I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to say where yet. I'm so sorry, and I'm not evasive with you guys. I love you guys, and I trust you guys. It's just the idea of, like, you know,
Marshall has questions. Come on.
Yeah, but they're building a pretty cool, in a completely different country, which you would not expect them to build it in. And they're going to really focus on the propagation of green trees, and they're big into venomous and stuff, and they're really doing it right, man. And, you know, Kristen's one of those people. She's really low key, but dude, she breeds the shit out of green tree pythons. Northern emeralds, dude, she's producing litters every year. You'll never see her post pictures or anything, but she's just crushing it. And that's what she's doing. And they're building a pretty cool facility. And, you know, we have a great relationship, and what's going to happen is, you know, we've talked about it a lot, where, you know, hopefully she's going to be able to produce some really cool locality animals over at this facility in pretty decent numbers. And then I'm going to import those babies. So it's going to be captive bred and born babies, locality stuff that I'm going to be able to represent for her here in the States, you know, some pretty cool stuff that I'm really looking forward to in the coming years.
So we're gonna need to get her on the show. How's that gonna work?
I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay, hold on. You said the same thing about Andrew Kelly. Hold on, time out. He said the same thing about Andrew Kelly. He swore up and down it's never gonna happen, pal. He told
you know what?
He looked me in my eyes and told me that. He's like,
I love it. I love Andrew, and I love him to death, and I'm really glad you got him. It's not, when I say that, I'm not.
All Marshall, not me. That was all Marshall, dude.
You were
wait, hold on.
Yeah, you were taking it as such a personal thing. I just, you know, I listen, man. I love.
I mean, Gary, we all know in this screen, I take everything personal. That's just. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
That.
I take it all offensively. I don't know what to do.
That I know. You're right. Yeah, I don't know. You know, I don't know.
Gary, he's still fuming about not getting Colette Sutherland on. So it's still.
Hey, well, motherfucker, neither did you. So both of us just breaking out there.
You know what? And how about Colette? Another one, man. Just like Colette has produced probably as many. You know, Rico is the king, but she's probably produced as many chondros as anybody. Colette, man. I mean,
she's badass. Give it up to Stephen Cush. He got their daughter on the show not too long ago.
That's awesome.
Summer, I guess their daughter Summer, who's like,
yeah, she's big in Summer's big into colubrids. I think she produces a lot of her own colubrids and stuff. Yeah.
So that's what we need to get. We need to get, you know, that's her best bet right there. Yeah.
Dan is one of the great. He's such a fucking knowledgeable dude, man. Dan,
really awesome. That whole brand, the whole family, the way they work, I love it. I've been ever since Ford introduced me to them. I've always loved the way they work.
Yeah, they're good people, man. They know their stuff, and yeah, Colette is she just crushes it, man. You know, a lot of these women today, man, in chondros, you know, Carly.
Carly, shout out to Carly. She's a trip. Carly is a fucking trip, man. I will tell you right now. I love her.
Yeah. Colette and Kristen, they're killing it, man. You know, so I met somebody. I wish I could remember her name. Shout out to the female keepers. I met her at the Conroe, Texas show. I think she definitely knew Bill. Bill definitely knew her and, you know, mentored her on some stuff. But man, she just had a prolapse I helped her with, and she did everything. You know, I love when people listen to me. It's just that simple, right? If I tell them to do something, they listen. And she was a great student, and she turned that animal around. And anyway, it's just fun. It's so, because I didn't know really any girls coming up doing this. You know, if I did, they didn't talk to me because they thought I was creepy.
No offense to the females, but we all know there's some sports that females will never dominate. I feel like more females get into chondros. Males might be in for a little bit of a. I feel like females have a more softer approach. They just have something
super detailed.
You know what I mean? Go ahead.
Super detail. Yeah, absolutely. My most challenging clientele, probably, you know, honestly, females. They put me through my patience. But yes, very detail oriented.
That's what makes them good chondro keepers and breeders.
1,000%. You know, that's the one thing I have to figure out. You know, the fact that I buy and sell animals is definitely perceived negatively by a lot of people. That I understand. But I think as people are in the hobby longer and they recognize that, hey, man, there's a right way to do it, I think they'll be more accepting. The other thing that's not accepting in the hobby yet, and I think it's becoming more acceptable, is, you know, charging for advice. You know, paying. I know, Bill, you're doing some of that now, and I just mentioned that because I was just talking about helping this person, right, with their prolapse. And I only mention it because somebody once said to me, and it makes such sense, unless people only pay attention to you when they pay you. You know, they pay attention when they pay you, meaning that, you know, so many times I get messages from people that they don't even have my name on them, you know, like, hey, I have an animal, and I know they sent it to 20 other people. Yeah. So that's the other thing I'm trying to figure out, is how not to. I can't answer everybody. I get from the YouTube channel, I get probably realistic numbers, right? People always like to bump up to how many. I get 50 messages a day. No, I get probably at least 10 to 12, I would say, between Instagram and people asking me for advice. And I don't get back to a lot of people just because I can't. So I don't know. That's something I'm trying to maneuver now and trying to figure that out, like how to help people like that.
It's a very slippery slope. And like you mentioned, I've gone down it a little bit over the last year. And you really have to I try to be careful. I'm like you, and I'm probably MJ gets more questions than all three of us put together on a daily basis about stuff. So it's a very slippery slope. I agree. You know, there's days where I get 20 messages. There's days I don't get any. But I agree with you 100%. People are really going to listen to you, and they're really going to take your advice if it costs them a nickel or a dollar or whatever. And I think that can be the demise of some people, right? Trying to get too much advice from too many experts, even, because I'll do things differently than Patrick and do different things differently than Marshall or you or MJ or whoever else. Mm-hmm. And if you start taking bits and pieces of everybody's the way they do it, sometimes that can be good. You develop your own style or whatever, but sometimes it can be detrimental. Yeah. So I think, you know,
Bill, especially if you're in a rush, right? Like, especially if you're like, you come into this and you're trying to figure things out as soon as possible. Yeah. Yeah. That's when things really go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm a big proponent of getting a mentor, and, you know, specifically if that mentor can be close to you, that's ideal. Yeah. Even if you're saying your geological region, you know, that's ideal. But yeah, really try to get a mentor. And, you know, I started this.
Take it slow.
Take it slow is number one rule. But I've started this Instagram service, and, you know, I've got a fair number of people in it now, and we have a chat, you know, a group chat, and it's been great. We all bounce stuff between each other, you know, every day. You know, there's ideas and questions that are being bounced. And a lot of times I'm not even the one answering the damn question, you know. other people in the group will answer the question, and it's I think it's been beneficial for sure.
Bill, do you think there's a way I could kind of charge for some type of Patreon thing, but I just have people join your group?
Listen,
Finder's fee.
Finder's fee.
Listen, I don't get monetized on YouTube videos, Gary. So,
the truth is, no bullshit. I don't want to charge people. That's not what I'm about. I don't want to charge people, but at the same time, it's like the amount of inquiries that come in, and you're taking time away from something. And it's like I said, people, I just responded to somebody on Facebook with something, and it's like I wrote this nice, well thought out message to them. It just was in the last week. I don't know if you guys saw it, whatever. But like, they didn't, not only did they not even like it, they didn't even comment on it. I'm like, I just wrote this whole paragraph, and I don't think this dude. I think he just posted his problem and then moved on. You know what I mean? So that's the frustrating part of it. But
with me, guys, I will say there's certain things that's hard for me to talk about. Like you guys know I'm transparent. Like I'll let people know when something wrong happens, right? But then people want to know, well, what went wrong, MJ? Yeah. Well, guess what? I can't fucking tell you in one sentence what went wrong. Yeah. Like that's gonna take a fucking full-on conversation. And I don't even know if I want to conversate with you about this, because who the fuck are you? Like, I take like a lot of this shit, like especially me being green behind, wet behind the ears still. Like it's hard to talk about some of these things, even though I'm transparent. If you really want to know my train of thought of why your emerald died, or why did you get a slug out clutch, or all this, dude, we're gonna have to sit down. We're gonna have to smoke. We're gonna have to talk. Like we're gonna talk about this. Like it's just not as easy to like, let me tell you in a fucking quick text. And mind you, like Bill said, there are so many multiple messages I'm trying to get to. And I'm not like Bill, or I'm like Gary, I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal, but bro, it is fucking uncontrollable sometimes. Like I can't respond to everybody.
And if you don't respond, then you look like a jerk. And
I'll be a jerk all day. That's the thing. People people judge me off that because I do come off like a jerk just by not responding. And I'm sorry, but I don't know how to answer that massive fucking question that you just asked me, other than send you the link to my Patreon. That's the best way you're going to do it. If you really want MJ to sit down and talk to you, you got to join my Patreon. I'm sorry. I do this for full time. This is my job. What do you want me to do?
Yeah. For me, it takes a phone call a lot. There's no way I could type out everything for your scenario that may have happened. I need to talk to you on the phone, and that's what I do.
Yeah. I've actually been to shows where people have come up to me and go, Gary, I just wanted to, I'm like, they introduce themselves and like, hey, it's, I love meeting people, and say, hey, it's so great to meet with you. And they're like, yeah, one time I reached out to you about something, and I'm waiting for and I'm like, did I get back to you? I'm like, yeah, you helped me. Like, okay.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, I've had people walk up to me saying, MJ, I'm sorry, you don't like me. I'm like, what do you mean I don't like you? And they'll show me a message. I'm like, bro, just because I don't reply to your message doesn't mean I don't like you. It just, I don't have time to like sit here and go back and forth with a stranger. No offense.
MJ, I've had people even in the chats that will ask a question and we don't get to it, we don't answer it, or even I don't say hi to somebody in the chat, and I'll get a message, hey man, did I do something to piss you off, or whatever. No, not at all, man. It's just things are very fluid and they move very quickly in the chats, and it's hard. It's really hard because
it's definitely not personal though, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I see these people and like I can only imagine, like, because we all know, it's best to stay out of your own head, but sometimes these people, when they approach us, they rely on our reply more than anything. And if we either reply nicely, mean, or not at all, it all depends on how they think we think of them. But to me, it's like, dude, I completely forgot you even asked me that. I'm sorry. Like, no, I don't think anything wrong of nothing. There's a lot going on every day. Message after message,
It is a full-time job. Since social media got into the whole reptile thing, man, Marshall, I give you such kudos because you maintain a huge collection, family, and you have a full-time job. Like I have a full-time job, but it's my company and I have major flexibility, but like, I don't know how people do it, man. It's a lot, Yeah. You asked me that earlier, MJ, does my breeding.
You don't respond to a bunch of messages. I'll tell you that's one thing.
Yeah. Really
do you, Marshall? I'm curious.
No. No, I don't. Except it's a time thing. Like I don't have time.
It's
What are you gonna, Marshall? What are you gonna do when you have fucking 30 babies that are like ready to rock and roll? You know, are you ready to take on this new customer base?
I don't know. Probably not. But
I'll
worry about that.
I have an idea. Send them all to Gary.
I was going to say, I may send him to Gary.
there you go.
And by the way, I tell people all the time when they first contact me, you know, when I'm talking about dollars and purchasing their animals and say realistic what I need to pay for them, I always tell people, like, do it yourself. Like, if you want help, I'll tell you how to get a MORPH market account. I'll help you. But I always say to them, but I'm telling you right now, if you start trying to sell them yourself on MORPH market and you start handling inquiries, I'll still take your animals 2 weeks from now, but I'm going to give you less money because I'm telling you right now, you're going to have a horrible experience doing that. You know what I mean? It's a lot. So, of course, Marshall, I'd help you any way I could. You know that. But yeah, it's a lot. 30 babies is a full-time job. That's a full-time job. Yeah.
What's your take, Gary, on the amount of people that you're witnessing coming and going out of the hobby right now?
I don't see any people leaving the hobby. Me personally, I don't see that. I don't know that because I'm dealing with a different crowd. The people I'm dealing with have been in for, 10, 15 years at least anyway. You know, if you spend my animals are all pretty high end, you know, so if they're spending money with me, that means that they're, you know, they've been in it for a while and they're comfortable spending that kind of money. And yeah. So
then why is it that most of the ball python people are checking out right now? What would you say to that?
They can't sell their animals, right? You can't. I mean, they're all going to say the same thing. It's so ironic, and this always drives me up the wall. Every ball python person, when they were making money with ball pythons, they had time. They had time, and they had time to post. They had time. Now everyone is, you know, due to other commitments right now, you know, things are changing in my world because they can't sell the animals. I'm not slamming anybody. It's just the reality of it. But I am seeing an alarming rate of people leaving the ball python market. You know, I'm seeing it at an alarming rate.
Well, and what's really alarming is when they decide to leave, and you know, the smart ones, the ones that are really, you know, have their snap, they'll post what they have available. And like, holy shit, that's 240 breeders that you just posted available. You know, it's well done, it's well typed out, you know, very well categorized, price, you know, like holy shit, you just dumped, you know, you're looking to dump 240 adult breeding ball pythons on the, you know, on the market.
You cannot sell them now. I'm not being a poo-poo ball python. I know there's guys out there selling ball pythons. I know there are. I'm sure
there are. Yeah, the relevant ones.
Still guys killing it.
Less money.
Exactly. It's the same. It's the same amount of work. To me, it's still, you know, I do like that's 90% of what I've sold for the last 5+ years. Yeah. But it's a lot of work. And it's gotten harder. I've shipped like twice as many boxes this year as last year for less money.
Yeah.
But
that's okay.
But Marshall, it's still good money though.
Yeah.
Like it's not,
right.
It's
like
I
still enjoy doing it. I still, you know, it's just not, you know, it's not as good as it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And with it being so good and so easy, it brought a lot of people in who were not, you know, we're not snake people. We're not reptile people. They were business people, maybe.
Wannabes.
I heard it's getting so bad that Justin Kabelka, his new Porsche doesn't even have a heated steering wheel. I felt terrible for Justin with that.
He doesn't have icy toners.
No.
Nobody should feel sorry for Justin.
I love Justin, man. You asked me who I look up to. I look up to a guy like, you know, the guys, the Bob Vu's, the Justins, these guys.
Okay, what about our Justin trip, though? How fun was that?
That was amazing, man.
Dude,
that was a once in a lifetime.
All of us, it's crazy because I want that trip again so much.
I want to do that. I want to go to Ryan's house. I like to go to Ryan's setup.
We need to go to Ryan's house. Dude, yes. But hold on, before we talk about Ryan's, I'm talking about the time that will take to my grave was all of us going to Kabelka's, going to that racetrack, that I definitely wasn't ready for. But I'm just saying, like, that was one of the funnest times ever, man. And just, I feel like really just being in the car with you guys, shooting the shit, talking stories, you know, I'll never forget, like, soaking that in, you know, like looking, you know, seeing Bill and Marshall in the front, and then I'm in the back seat with you just chopping it up. Like, that right there was everything to me. I'll never forget that.
And the people too, like Justin, people who don't know Justin he's a Southerner, man. He's just he's a sweet guy, and all his friends are like it's like these people are aliens. Like they're so nice. It's like they were dropped upon this planet and they could not have been warmer and more cordial to us. You know, so it's pretty cool.
We got to meet Shelby.
Shelby was great.
Character.
Yeah.
Shelby's out of the ball python game. He checked out. He's one of the guys on the list, unfortunately, which is wild to me. I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
That.
He just built a new facility and everything. Yeah, that's crazy.
Must be for his cars now. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right.
That's the difference, I guess, with the. So I talk about ball python people earlier, and I say, hey man, they're not necessarily the reptile people, because I could just tell you there's nothing that would ever look. My health was compromised, but other than that, man, there's no way I'm going to leave this.
That's right here. I try not to judge people either, Gary. Like I get it, things happen.
I'm not judging them. Yeah,
but like for me, like you would have, I would have to be unable to take care of myself in order for me not to have this. Like it would have to be a life-changing event for me to give this up. Otherwise, like good luck. It's never going to happen.
Absolutely.
I mean,
there's a time in my life where I had to downsize, but I've never, since I'm 13 years old and I'm 56, I've never not had a snake since I'm 13 years old.
Yeah. So
think about that, right? And I got to tell you, I eat, sleep, drink snake even today, man. This is what I think about. This is what I'm into. I have an amazing, my wife's totally cool with it. She gets the whole thing. She doesn't give me a hard time, and that's it, man. And this is what I do. So
it's one of the things I'm still hearing happening, and I don't, again, not judging, but like, people getting loans to get animals.
That's been happening forever, man.
But
never end well. That's a terrible idea.
Not ideal to be in that position, right?
Say that again.
Not ideal to be in that position.
No, I would never.
You're getting money in a loan to pay for these animals, or to even get them to begin with. Yeah,
I remember even 20-something years ago, I remember a guy specifically took a loan out on his 401k to buy a pair of het albino boas. I remember that like it was yesterday. Yeah, I talk. Anybody who deals with me knows that I try talking people out of it all the time. There's always another animal that comes along. People get themselves crazy with me, like, just please. I get paid Friday, and I really, you take on we're all old enough, right? You take on kind of a fatherly figure type thing when you're doing younger people. I'm always telling them that, and I promise something else is always going to come along, So that's, I've never put myself in debt over animals, and every dime I ever made has pretty much gone back into animals. Not at this point, honestly, in my keeping career, because I've been doing it so long. But yeah, every time I bought and sold stuff, it was just to get stuff for myself or buy more equipment, and those are the lifers, man. I have a gentleman.
I think you could compare somebody that took out borrowed money to invest in snakes and was successful at about the same ratio as somebody that's turns into a professional athlete.
Slim to none.
I think it's
that. I will say that in 20, I don't know what year, whatever year I bought into the Ultramill project, I was not making a bunch of money off snakes. And I actually did borrow against my 401k to get into the project, and it ended up working out. Yeah. But I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. But hold on, Marshall. In your case, how rooted were you already in the reptile game? You've been.
I was already. Yeah. I'm like Gary. I'm
talking people's first year keeping the species, and they're taking loans out to get more of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, and you probably didn't cash out your 401k, right?
No, of course not. No.
Yeah. I think people who, again, hey, listen, we talk about the ball python mark and stuff, but we always have to remember, we all know more than one person. Several, probably come up with a dozen people who made well into the 7 figures a year with ball pythons.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely possible. But I do think that, man, it's, you have to have a business mind too. It's not enough, I'm talking about Justin, because when you think about ball pythons, you think of Justin. I see a guy like Justin. He's not super successful because he was able to breed the certain first of this morph or something. He's got a business mind. I always say Justin would have been successful in anything he did. I don't care what he did, he would have been successful. But I think most people get into reptiles.
But Gary, Justin thought way out of the box.
1,000%.
He did. Yeah.
And by the way, he still thinks way out of the box.
Invested outside the box, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But But yeah, I think a lot of people, you understand, they're not happy in their jobs. They're working 9 to 5 jobs. They're not happy. They're looking for an outlet. And when they buy their first ball python, especially in the last 5 years, and they see what they paid for it and they see what other people are selling them for, man, and they speak with the wife, and we could be doing that. And if we buy this, so it all adds up. I understand how it happens, but
very alluring for sure.
But I feel like if Marshall would have done that 401k thing and he just gotten into the hobby, he would have never fucking made it up. He would have never.
Oh, no way.
No, he already had people who fucked with him. He already had a fucking good name established. Once he had the product, it's gone. It's just like when Bill or whenever you have something for sale, it's gone unless it's a yellow neonate. No offense.
Yeah.
I had to do that. I had to. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I always say you could. My daughter now, she's going to college, and we talk about different, she wants to be a psychologist, it looks like, and she's going to be a real doctor, Bill, a PhD in psychology.
Your daughter's about to be in college?
Yeah.
That's
she's going to college.
Scary, bro. Oh my God.
Yeah, it is scary. But the thing I always say to her is, when people, she'll over the last couple of years, she might have said something, and maybe another family member said, hey, you can't make money if you're doing that. You should look into something else. And I always say, it's the truth, man. It's not hype. It's not like the reality is, if you have passion for something, MJ, look how you make your living, man. I mean, hats off to you, dude. You're doing your animal. You have so many revenue streams coming in, and you figured it out. And if you're passionate about something, man, you'll figure it out. And that's the way it is. And I'm here to tell you that even in today with a soft market, you could do really well. You could do really well for yourself in the reptile hobby. You can. It's just
there's just so many opportunities if you put your mind to it. You know what I mean? The thing is, the whole lazy part of things does not work well in here. Like, you have to have a drive that just makes you
grind.
But you're grinding without looking at the timeline. You're not wondering when. You're just doing it because you're doing it. You know what I mean? Like this. No offense. No, not. I'm saying not to put myself on a pedestal, but I'm still excited for almost every episode that I do on this fucking network. Like, because I love it. Like, this doesn't feel like I've been doing this for 5 years. Not at all. Like, but I love doing what I'm doing. And if you're not loving what you're doing, I don't know how you expect to grind for the rest of your life. I don't know. It's hard to do. It's hard to grind something that you are miserable grinding doing,
No doubt about it.
It wears you out. And what I do is a dream come true. Like, for you to be doing a hobby for a living, I feel like that's everyone's dream. Isn't that everyone's dream? Like, let's think about that. Like,
it is.
What the fuck? I'll never forget. I was so happy. This was like when I first met Marshall, and I was like, man, I was like just so like, I couldn't believe Marshall, like, after looking at his collection, going to his house, and he still wakes up every fucking morning to go to a job that he really hates doing. But Marshall, you told me there's times that you rather not go to work, right? And you wish you could just fuck around and go to a fish concert, right? Like, but you do it, and I love people like Marshall who have that in them still. But for me, I don't know no other life. I don't. And I will make sure I make it a point that I don't go back to living a life that I was miserable doing. Because for me, especially having a son and growing a family, I don't have time to be miserable. I don't. Yeah. It don't happen overnight though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, plus Marshall makes a lot of money. He's got 2 kids and a wife and a big house, and so I get all that too. But you got to understand too, MJ, when we were coming up, I'm not going to say it wasn't possible to make a living doing this. Of course it was possible, but it depends on your lifestyle too. I will tell you, it would have been very difficult for me to do what I'm doing now 20, 25 years ago. I definitely did it, and I definitely, I was able to generate revenue by doing it back then, but now it's very different thanks to the internet. I mean, I can do now with the brokering and stuff. I mean, I really, you could really carve out, pretty nice living for yourself. Honestly, you can. It's but that wasn't always the case.
But but it also.
Plus, you've been doing this for so long too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
I have, Marshall. Yeah.
You've got 30 years or 40 years of doing this, where someone's not just going to come in off the street and step into that and be able to do what you do.
Hey, stay with you, Marshall. You're on the same fucking boat, buddy.
Yeah.
It's reputations cannot be made, in a matter of months or years.
And even Bill, even people who come in today and look at your success with clutches, like, the decades of work that you put in to get to this point, and also all the work with the carpet you did before even chondros to really find your place in this hobby did not happen overnight, bro. Like you put in a lot of fucking time and a lot of details into what you're good at right now, for sure.
If you look at anybody that's had long, ultimate, what you would consider ultimate success, they all have that same story.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Longevity.
Whether you're talking about Justin or Gary or whoever else you want to talk about.
Yeah.
They've all been in it for decades.
Yeah.
Not 5 years,
Yeah.
not even 10 years.
Not even 10 years.
Decades.
Not even, decades, for reals.
So,
All right, listen up. Wrap up topic time. I'm going to go first, and then we'll go with Marshall and Bill. And this is a juicy one for me. Shout out to MORPH Market. Gary, I know you sold a lot of snakes on MORPH Market, and nothing makes me happier to hear you have success. But at a time like now, right, no matter what it is that you're selling in the reptile hobby, how important do you feel like savings is to either a first-time keeper, a long-time keeper, whatever? But if you could save some coin right now, and you could do that for a customer of yours, how important do you feel like savings is for a keeper right now, or a breeder?
I think I know where this is going. I will just say that I'll tell you this candidly, is that I don't have a dog in this fight because I don't have any sponsors or anything like that. I'll just say this. I used a different shipping company for the last few years. And I want to be honest, I love them. I think they do an amazing job, and I think they were super responsive. But yeah, I mean, the reality is that, hey man, it is, even though things are wonderful and I'm grateful for me with selling animals, it is a soft market. I don't care whatever industry you're in right now, it's a soft market. And yeah, if I could save, I think I shipped 61 boxes last year. And yeah, I'm saving, I am, holy crap, I can't believe how much money I'm saving right now. I really mean it. It's pretty amazing. So I'm really happy with
drastic.
Using MORPH Market right now, shipping. And I will tell you this, that in the two occasions where I just wanted to just reach out for a couple inquiries, that wow, they got back to me. Des was the name of the one person. I wish I could think of the other girl, but man, holy crap, man.
Brittany?
They're on, wasn't Brittany. I don't think it could have been, but whoever, their bottom line is 2 different occasions, 2 different people, and man, they're on their game. And I'm a customer, man. I'm a customer.
Did you use the live chat?
Yes, I did use the live chat.
Did you use the chat feature? Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Same. I've had same experience. Hit them on the chat, and within a minute, 2 minutes, you've got somebody on the line, and they're.
Sounds like an exaggeration. Yeah, like my last 5 boxes, which I shipped last week. Like, I think realistically, I'm going to say I saved about $180, $200. I mean, 5 boxes. That's pretty ridiculous, right? So, I
mean, it adds up. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I'll save thousands of dollars this year. I mean, sure, Yeah.
I've shipped 80 boxes this year so far, a little over.
And you, Marshall.
I had to one up you on something. And,
yeah.
And the like, if I would have been. If this service would have been available at the beginning of the year, I mean, the savings would be, thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And come on, I don't give a fuck how balling you are. It's thousands of dollars. That's savings right there. Like, that matters.
You know what? For me, man, my average box, and I think, I figure this stuff out. My average box has a value of about $3,800. So listen, for me especially, and this is not prompted, MJ. I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but you asked me, so I'm telling you. But I will just tell you that, dude, if I got to pay more money to have a more peace of mind to ship my animals out, I'm going to do it. I don't give a shit. I don't nickel and dime anything. Believe me, I don't. But if I'm going to get pretty much that, the way I look at it is, if I'm going to get that same responsiveness and people that they have the same control as other shipping companies, it just makes sense for me to do it. It's just that simple. So I considering all factors, it's a no-brainer for me, and I'm loving it. I really am. So, yeah.
Fuck yeah. All right. Who wants to go with their wrap-up topic, Marshall or Bill?
I'll go. So what is you've got a lot of arboreals, you've got a lot of pythons. What is if there was a species that you've not kept before that you could keep? Money, no object, space, no object. What would it be?
If I'm going to So can I give two answers, one for snake and one for non-snake?
Sure.
Bowen's python would be my snake. Bowen's python would be it, because I don't have the room in this house. I would like to set up a big enclosure with some Bowenai, because I love them, and I do think that they are going to stop coming into the U.S. at some point, and I think we're going to need as much parental stock, and I think people are figuring it out. Like Scott, what's Scott's last name?
Flood.
Scott Flood?
Flood. Yeah, like
Scott
people
Flood,
are figuring them out. So Bowenai would be that choice for me. But my number one animal, honestly, man, if I was going to really set him up, I would set him up like my friend Johnny Felicetti. I
love Johnny, man. Johnny's a good guy.
Yeah,
I would do the shinglebacks like Johnny does them. They're my favorite. I just love them. I just love them. That's like a dream animal for me. But it's a huge investment, and you can't go half-assed if you're going to get into shinglebacks. You can't buy one. You got to buy a group, and they're pretty pricey animals. So, and I'm not set up for those either, by the way.
Yeah, I highly recommend anyone going to GS Reptiles YouTube channel and look at that shingleback episode he did at Johnny's.
Great one.
Such a great episode.
Johnny's killing it.
Yeah.
Johnny's killing it.
Shout out to Johnny, dude. I'm really glad you introduced me to that guy. He's a cool guy. All right, Bill, what you got?
Well, listen, Gary, you're one of my best friends. We talk almost weekly. There is not a legitimate question that I could ask you that I don't already know the answer to. So I think it would do our listeners a disfavor if I did not ask you that if, and I'm going to put a big if here, you were ever to own, or shall we even say produce, a Carpondro, what locality breed would you use?
Oh my God.
If I had no choice?
Yeah.
This is
Like
crazy.
it's like you got to have a Carpondro, or Shannon's going to jail for the rest of her life.
He'd rather give up.
You know what? We had a little bit of an argument yesterday, Shannon and I. So timing. Look, so some of the animals you produced, the Carpondros, are pretty.
Oh, well, I've never produced a Carpondro.
Some of the animals you've had, I've seen at your house.
Yeah, I collect them.
Acquired.
Yeah, so I would say, hey, listen, I'm going color, right? I'm going jet black and yellow jungle carpet.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd probably
Jag or no jag?
I'd go non-jag. I'd go really nice. I'd go really I don't want on top of everything else. I don't want a potential of a neuro stuff going on.
Okay.
I might use a jag sibling.
Okay.
Or a pure Cheyenne, a pure jungle, bright black, jet black and yellow.
Okay.
And I would go as far as what's that?
In the green tree?
Green tree, I might go red Biak type, because a red Biak, because I want to get the max color, high yellow, like one of MJ is a beautiful Biak animal. And just because it'll be nice, big aggressive feeders, and then I hatch them and I check them out, and then I would just very gently, delicately, I put them in the freezer, and then I would just it'd be cool to see what I got. But it'd be cool to see what I got.
Would you take some pictures, post pictures of them?
I would post pictures. Yeah, I would just tell people I was raising them, but I wasn't really raising them.
And there's tears coming to my eyes, man.
Yeah. I really do hate. I just want to be clear. I really do hate Carpondros, though.
Well, let me ask you this: like, how do you feel about people who ask you about Carpondros, like in a trolling way?
I get that every single day. It's cool. I love it. I love it because I love that people watch my videos, and that's how I know. And I love it, and I think it's really cool. And that's something that's in there. But so very quickly, I hate Carpondros for one reason. I was at my friend John Martin's house. John is in New Jersey. I don't know if John deal with some health issues, but when I was at his house, I was looking at what I thought were green tree pythons. There were two of them, and they look identical to green tree pythons. A lot of Carpondros don't. Obviously, they look like Carpondros.
They must have been 75%ers or 88% or something.
Yeah, John's didn't though. And the bottom line is that he had some that looked like green tree pythons, and from that moment on, it really scared the shit out of me, because I'm thinking that's how I just don't want him to get into the hobby, and people are thinking they're buying green trees, right? And they're buying Carpondros. So for that moment,
is a 75% Carpondro is worth more than the vast majority of green trees out there, so nobody would misrepresent it.
I hate any percentage. I do. I hate any percentage. I'd put 100%.
Except 88% diamonds, right?
Different. Now we're talking about something different. Very different.
Marshall, you're my boy.
Yeah. So I'm not a fan of people ask me all the time, do you really like, I know in your videos you kid around Carpondros. Like, no, I really hate them. Do you really love Taylor Swift? I really love Taylor Swift. I hate Carpondros. I love Taylor Swift. So
Gary, who the fuck's this guy, bro? And he's always wondering where you're at. Like, should we be concerned? Like, is this like a stalker or like, I'm just curious. Like, is he your friend? I just want to make sure we're good here. So that's don't block
AJ.
him.
I love AJ. I met AJ one time. And he may not even remember this. He had AJ, by the way, AJ used to call himself Dr. Frankenstein's Creations about 30 years ago. And he was the first guy I know who was producing Carpondros.
Oh, God.
Okay. So that's
really?
That's
the story?
That's the God's honest truth. Yeah, that's AJ. And he, super knowledgeable keeper, produced some green Sanzinia this year. And AJ and I used to talk all the time. And about 30 years ago for business, he sells dental equipment, dental supplies or something. And he was passing through New Jersey and he said, dude, I got to stop over at Newark Airport. You want to meet for a drink at the bar just to introduce myself? And that was like 30 years ago. And he and I met, and he's a good egg, man. I love AJ.
All right.
I haven't seen him since, huh?
Have not seen him since. He's got like 5 kids or something. I know he went through a divorce and he's got a lot going on, but he's a knowledgeable dude, produces some really nice locality boas and green Sanzinia, and he's a good egg, man. Yeah.
So you're positive he's not at that same bar at that airport right now, like waiting for you?
He might be. I think my ring camera just beeped. There could be something going on here. Yeah, he's a good dude. AJ's a good dude.
My man, dude, 3 hours wasn't enough. I mean, we could go another 3, but
can't believe it.
I can't believe I can't believe it. I already knew. Like I know what you're capable of when I have you on a show like this, and it exceeded all expectations. I appreciate you so much, Gary, for making the last live of 2024 what it was. You're awesome. I don't know what to say. You're one of the best I've ever met in this fucking world, for sure.
I appreciate that. I love you guys very much. You know that, man. I always say if you guys ever left the hobby, there's a good chance I go with you. That's the truth, man. I talk to you guys every single day, and I love you all. And Ryan too is not on here, but thanks for having me. And I am super, man. It's not lip service, man. I'm just really grateful for this position I carved out in this hobby, and appreciative and grateful. Everybody who buys and spends a lot of money with me. I don't take it lightly, and I appreciate it, man. So thank you guys.
That's a fact, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what 2025 brings for GS Reptiles. But for now, guys, go give him a follow on Instagram. And Gary, I didn't really get to bust your balls much on your consistency of posting on YouTube.
I know, it's terrible.
But what do you have to say to anyone out there like myself who is wondering, like, how often or when can we expect new GS Reptile content on YouTube?
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. You know, when people don't put out a lot of content, and they always say in their videos, hey, guys, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start putting a lot more videos out now, I promise. I'm not going to bullshit anybody. What you get is what you get. I love doing them. I'm going to do them as much as I can, and that's all I could promise you. But I promise I'm going to keep doing them. I'm not going to stop doing them. I just, I'm doing the best I can. That's all I'm going to tell you guys.
All right.
So,
that's why it's important to go subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you are notified once that video drops, and I let all my people know. But do me a favor, guys. Go give them a follow, go subscribe, but more importantly, give it up. It's a wrap for GS Reptiles.
Thank you. And MJ, can I thank everybody in the chat, too? I saw people asking me stuff. Lisa Farina's in there I love, and there's people in there I know and love. I couldn't respond, man. But thank you for following along tonight.
Give it up for GS Reptiles, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, guys. Thanks so much.
See you, Gary.
I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you so much. Fucking A, what a guy, man. Wish it didn't end. I mean, like I said, this is one of those episodes. Well, first and foremost, if we're in Bill's backyard, for sure I'm not calling in an early night. We are going the distance that night, if that was the case.
Yeah, we'd go another couple hours for sure.
For sure, Uber Eats Whataburger at 3:30 a.m. If I had to, it'd be ready to rock. 2,000 calories in one hit. I don't give a fuck. Man, that was a good episode, man. It was cool to have Gary in the mix. Huh? Think about it. Like, it's really
great way to end the year. Couldn't have been better.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure.
I want you guys to really enjoy the rest of your year off, because we will not have a All in the Tree Tuesday until January 7th. That's going to be the next All in the Tree Tuesday, which I don't want to say Bill deserves this time off because motherfucker takes his vacation time. We all know it. But Marshall, you for sure deserve this time off. Okay. So soak it up, because we're not fucking around next year. We're coming in hot. Okay, we're not playing, and not only with our episodes, but with the production side of things. I have a good feeling with Marshall, and I have a good feeling with Bill. You guys are going to see some crazy Chondro production from these two next year. I'm looking forward to it.
Let's hope. Yeah.
MJ, I can't thank you enough for putting this together. I had no idea it was going to be the popular platform that this thing has evolved into. So I just want to thank you for including me and just spearheading this and making it happen. I'm very grateful.
I second that. It's been, when you first asked me to do it, I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to, enjoy it. And it's been a bright spot, man. Look forward to Tuesdays, and it's, learning things and meeting people that I would never have met otherwise. It's been awesome.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is I think I can agree with everyone who tapped in tonight that All in the Tree Tuesdays would not be what it is if it wasn't for you guys. Okay. So, and I mean, you, Marshall and Bill, like, you guys make all this shit come together full circle, and having Gary on like this is what really proves all that. So thank you so much. Big things to come. For now, guys, you already know who to follow. If you're not already, Phoenix Reptile, subscribe to his Instagram subscription. It's something you don't want to miss. And of course, Red Mountain Herps, Marshall Mendez, selling mostly ball pythons right now for now. So we'll see. But give it up for my two boys. It's a wrap for the 2024 season, ladies and gentlemen.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year.
See y'all next year.
See you in January.
Cheers, boys. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the support, everyone who really comes through and watches All in the Tree Tuesdays. I feel like, I'm very passionate about any episode I'm a part of, but Tuesday nights are a very special part of what I do, because nothing gets me more fired up on a day-to-day basis when it comes to green tree pythons, when it comes to emerald tree boas, when it comes to talking to my boy Bill Stiegel, Marshall Mendez, and whatever guests we have. I'm telling you, man, your circle's everything in life. And if you don't have a circle that gets you fucking pumped up to do what you do, you better change that circle up. I love my circle, man. I love everybody. I love my Patreon members, my trappers, my viewers, all the love and support I got this year. Thank you so much. Seriously, man, you guys are a huge part of what I do, and I'm going to fucking continue to take this heat into next year, because it's the coolest reptile network in the world. No matter of the multiple networks or whatever the fuck wannabe bullshit out there, this is the undisputed coolest reptile network in the world, and that's a fact. Have a good night. Episode 580 in the books. Have a beautiful 2024, and I'll catch you next year, and I'm out. Cheers.